Welcome back to another day, another episode of the Daily Grind. On today's show, I had a couple stories I wanted to talk about, but then I saw the Strauss Zelnick had an interview on David Senra's show, podcast, and I was like, I want to watch this, right? The first couple of, I watched the first minute and 45 seconds, and I was like, you know what? I want to watch this because, one, it's game-related, right? It's the CEO of one of the biggest gaming companies out there. I love podcasts. I love information. And I would love to watch this and kind of talk about it as we listen to it. It's a long one. I think it'll be the entire show. I think it'll go over to 2 hours because if I stop and pause and whatnot, it's like an hour and 30-minute podcast. Obviously, I think there's breaks and stuff in there as commercials and stuff, or ads. But yeah, that's what I want to watch that on the show and just kind of hear what Strauss Zelnick, because we don't really get to hear Strauss Zelnick, right? Grand Theft Auto's coming out later this year. The pre-orders, everyone's stirring up and stuff, and I want to see the man, the myth, the legend, Strauss Zelnick, that's never been a gamer, as people say, running a company. So yeah, we're gonna watch that today. If you guys like it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to go above and beyond that, become a member as little as $5. We do this, like I said, Monday through Thursday. We just cover news stories, have conversations, and we just watch and read things that I'm interested in, and we get how conversation with you guys. Good morning, chat. Good morning, Altern. Good morning, Travis, Jesse Mack, Titan, First Loser, Mr. Z, PS5 Blows, Sarge, K Titan. What's going on? Who else is here? Do we miss anybody else? We got Eclipse. What's going on, man? Roic. Good morning. Roadkill. All right. Who cares if he's a gamer? He's a businessman and a good one. Yeah, I'd love... Look, I'm now 48 years old. I've always been very... I love learning and educating myself and getting more things out of life. So if someone else that's more successful, obviously, says some things and I can pick up a couple of things out of that and it motivates me to do something, then so be it. You know what I mean? So this is what we're going to do this morning. We're going to watch the man behind Grand Theft Auto 6, Strauss Zelnick. This is on David Senra's podcast or on his channel. 78,500 subscribers on the channel. It was about 3 days ago. I'm surprised it only got 68,000 views. So we're going to watch this. Okay. We're going to pause. We're going to talk about it. We're going to do a bunch of stuff. We're going to watch it at 1.5 because it's a long one. It's a long one. I think we'll be able to listen to them. I don't think they talk too fast. All right. What was Mr. Z saying? Hello, hello. Hello, hello. All right, here we go. Links in the description. If you want to go to the channel, listen to it yourself at normal speed without pausing and stuff like that. I do suggest that. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on their channel as well. All right, here we go.
Can you run through the how you wound up buying and taking the deal to get Take-Two Interactive?
You know, interesting, it's not a story that we've told. And part of the reason is
this his house? This is David's house. Whose house is this?
Stories like this tend to be sort of self-serving because it worked out
If it is too fast, let me know. Maybe we'll go down to 1.25. Let me know if it's too fast for you guys.
well, and not everything works out well. In fact, most deals don't happen, and deals that do happen don't always work out. This one did. It's kind of a set of one of one. The way we did this deal has never happened before, and I'm pretty certain it will never happen again because we essentially did a hostile takeover with no money. And the reason we did that is we had no money.
A hostile takeover with no money.
So it was really our only choice. But I had a background in the video game business and started ZMC.
Did he just say he has a background in video game business? This is before he was in the video game business? People said that Strauss Zelnick doesn't have any video game experience as a CEO. Interesting.
With partners, and the goal of ZMC was to buy certain...
Let me rewind that for a second.
Still take over with no money. The reason we did that is we had no money. So it was really our only choice. But I had a background in the video game business and started ZMC with partners, and the goal of ZMC was to buy, in certain instances, turn around, and in all instances, build up and create value in companies that stood at the intersection of media and technology. And the idea in 01 when we...
Mr. Z says, Strauss has the Bob Iger sweater. Is this a uniform? guys in their 60s that are, multi-millionaires / billionaires. I guess this sweater probably costs more than my entire house. Probably.
Started the business was that technology would supercharge media and create lots of value and destroy value. And of course, that's a story now that's more resonant than ever. I thought in 01 it was pretty obvious, but it was non-obvious to the entertainment business.
I guess we should give some context. By that time, you had already spent 2 decades in the entertainment business? Longer?
About that, yeah. And I've been in every entertainment business there is.
So why was it obvious to you in 2001 and not obvious to other people in the industry then?
I was a new media guy. So my goal getting out of grad school was to run a movie studio, an old business even when I graduated from grad school. So I got to Columbia Pictures in a very junior job. It was the only job I was offered, and by definition, the best I could get in the entertainment business. I was responsible for international...
I mean, that's a pretty high up job for your first job. Way too fast? Okay. I can tell you don't watch a lot of videos on YouTube. I've been watching Jax. I've been watching videos at like 2-point speed. I got things to do, and I'm listening to it as I'm doing stuff around the farm and stuff. I'll listen to two speed. I get it though. I'll lower it down to 1.25.
Television distribution, which was basically the last stop on the train of distribution of film and television. In those days, there weren't many outlets. With motion pictures, you went cinemas, and then you went to the very beginning of home entertainment, the very beginning of paid television, the very beginning of cable television, and eventually free television. And my job was to distribute to free television. So I'm sitting around, and new media has come along to the entertainment business. In those days, believe it or not, new media.
What year is this? What year is he talking about? Because he's out of grad school. He's 68. So we're talking 40 years. So we're talking about late 80s, right? About late 80s?
It was home entertainment, which at that time was video cassette distribution and paid television.
And this is in the 80s?
This is in 83.
Okay. So
I'm glad he just answered my question. Thank you, Strauss.
that's new media in 83.
So that's
a
new
term
media.
still used all the time, almost 50 years later.
Amazingly.
Yeah.
So at big companies like Columbia Pictures, which made their money in film and television production and distribution, and were really old line companies who were just beginning to modernize. I was one of a small cadre of business.
You know what? First, I don't know. Let's see at normal speed.
Business school grads who've been recruited into the business, which was atypical for the industry.
He seems pretty fine, but we're only a 2-hour podcast, so
until the early 80s. So they realized we need a new media guy, like the way today everyone needs an AI guy or AI, army. And so they looked around, they're like, who is the least valuable executive at this company that we can put in charge of new media? And that was me. So in addition to my day job, I became responsible for new media, which was the best thing that ever happened to me because I'd always been a futurist. My thesis in grad.
It's interesting that he wanted to be a head of a movie studio, right? Gets in at a mid-tier position at the age of 25, 26, right? 25, 26, then gets handed a section of the company. That's crazy. I'm going to rewind that for a second.
At this company that we can put in charge of new media. And that was me. So in addition to my day job, I became responsible for new media, which was the best thing that ever happened to me because I'd always been a futurist. My thesis in grad school was a history of the electronic entertainment business from its inception in 1895 until when I graduated in 83, and I've tried to stay current since then. So the notion of looking ahead sort of came naturally to me, but now I had to do it for my job. Oh, and I had to deliver revenue in that job as well. So that was my initial exposure to new media. And
I don't think we're going to get any kind of Grand Theft Auto news from this interview. This is not why I'm watching it. I'm watching it because everyone says that Strauss Zelnick, is just a guy that doesn't know what he's doing. He just kind of just landed in his lap type of thing. And I never thought that about him at all. And because he's a CEO of the largest gaming company, I figured why not watch it and learn something maybe, Actually,
if you look at my career, it has been the combination of traditional businesses and new businesses driven by technology, which is why this is such an exciting time with all things AI.
I want to interrupt you 1 second. Did you say, so you were a futurist by looking back though? Did I just hear you were studying?
Yeah, you have to know the past to be better at the future.
To be a futurist by looking back.
So wait, you started back in 1895. What was happening in 1895?
The very beginning of electronic entertainment, recorded music, beginning of motion pictures.
What is the beginning of recorded music is phonograph?
Well, in those days it was a wax cylinder, but you don't really need to know about it. I'll go into it if you want. There's actually a wax cylinder. It looks like this. You can see them in museums. And that was the beginning of recorded music. That and player pianos.
I'm more interested in what insights you were deriving from the past and then how you thought it was, you were applying them in the 80s.
So there are many insights, obviously, and we can go into them, one after another. But he seems like
a pretty laid back CEO. Now I get it. People are like, well, yeah, he's in an interview. No, you can really tell somebody just by the way they're talking. You know what I mean? He doesn't talk. He's not talking to him like he's a multi-billionaire to a small little content creator type of thing. He's talking to him just like having a conversation, and he seems pretty like down to earth.
I guess that spoke to me that probably helped me the most was you always have to embrace new technologies. If you fight against them, you'll be left behind. Number two, and I've said this all the companies I've been at, most human beings are wired to believe that which is going on now will never change.
That's right. I'm not one of those people. We talk about things all the time, and a lot of people, we always talk about this, a lot of people just can't see it. They don't see the future, right? These are the people back in the day that are like, horse and buggy, never going to be anything better than a horse and buggy. And then the car comes, and they're like, the car, nothing's going to be better than the car.
But the actual state of play is exactly what is going on now will change. It will always change.
That's right.
For example, people, whether they like it or not, think today's political environment is what it is. If they like it, it's going to stay forever. If they don't like it, they're moaning that it will stay forever. But it won't stay forever.
Those are people that don't want to get involved. They just want things to happen for them.
It'll change. The economy will change. And
these are people that when we talk about microtransactions and live service games and broken buggy games, they're like, that's just the way it is. It's just the way it is. No, that's the way it is for you. The rest of us that actually give a shit, we're actually going to try to make change and do something because things change. It wasn't always this way. So how is it that we're here now and everyone's like, that's just the way it is? That's not the way it was. So how is it the way it is now? If you're just complacent, if you just think that way, then that's the way it'll be.
Media and entertainment will change. And because I've always been wired that way, I was able, when I started ZMC, to make sure I have an idea. Let's not buy legacy businesses that are under pressure. Remember, this is 01, so it was non-obvious. Like, let's not go into the movie business. It's a terrible business, as a business.
It is a terrible business.
It's fun creatively, but as a business, it's a bad business. Let's not go into deficit network television production. Just a bad economic business. It's different today than it was, but it was really bad then, where you would deficit these shows in hopes of creating enough episodes that you could syndicate them. And if you didn't get there, you had a massive loss. And if you occasionally got there, you had a huge...
Exactly, Winzo. Exactly. Right? And here we go, 30. Just like a lot of us think that the said stuff changes, stuff doesn't stay in the past. Like the fanboys say about exclusives, we're not in the 90s or 2000s. No more prone example. Exactly. Everyone thinks, or prime example, everyone thinks that whatever's happening now, that's it. It's never going to change. It's the same stuff. That is so much bullshit. It changes all the time. All the time. He's a laid-back person versus running a business two different ways from who he is. I think the way he runs the business, Jesse Mack, is because he is who he is. I think just off of seeing him sit down and talk, I've never really seen too many interviews with Strauss Zelnick, okay? We all think as a poor person, when I say poor people, I mean, you're not running a fucking massive company. You're just a regular 9-to-5 guy, right? Maybe you make good money and stuff, but we always look, because people make more money than you, right? Not you personally, but just us, okay? Someone that makes more money than you, we think that they think that they're better than us. And that might be for a lot of people. But then there's other people that run companies that are just down to earth. The reason their companies are successful is because there's Steve Jobs, one of the greatest CEOs of a company, okay, was a complete and utter asshole, okay? But he also understood how a business was run, right? And you could talk to him, but at the same time, okay, he was a complete prick, but he knew business. Then there's other people that are very timid. You have to be a certain type of person to run a company, okay? You can't be Mr. Nice Guy all the time. You have to know when to be strict and not strict, but at the same time, be respectful, right? I talk about this all the time when I was just a manager at a place, right? If I asked somebody to do something, I didn't just tell them to do it. I asked them, hey, can you do this? And I would help them as well. And that built up a rapport. So when something else came down the line as a manager, as a general manager, as a CEO, as whatever, people respect you because they know that they don't think that you think you're better than them.
Which is what motivated everyone. But it was, the economics looked a lot like winning the lottery. But I don't win the lottery. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But that's not my life experience. But there are many other lessons as well. But the biggest lesson...
Everyone's waiting for the lottery. Instead of going out and doing the thing, they're just waiting for the lottery to win. which is like getting struck by lightning twice or getting attacked by a shark, right? And then they feel sad about themselves. They're like, well, the man's keeping me down. Well, you know, maybe do more. Try harder, right? Instead of just waiting there.
And I think is that new things come along and they can grow. Old things in the media and entertainment business take a really long time to die. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes they stay in the business forever. Sometimes they come back.
What would be an example of that from the 80s where we're at? We're talking about new media, and that's what your focus is.
Home entertainment, and which was basically video cassette distribution, which became DVD distribution, which became digital distribution.
Which was a tiny market at that time that drastically expanded.
It was just beginning to boom in the early 80s.
And you were an early believer in that?
Well, so much so that I left Columbia Pictures to go to the largest independent home entertainment company, Vestron.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Well, I've been very fortunate at Columbia Pictures. I figured out how to double the divisions.
I like this interview so far. It's very like we're just a fly on the wall and just two guys are having a conversation. It doesn't feel staged in any way, shape, or form. Eclipse says, I'm not saying that you can't be nice or owning a company, but I guarantee your company isn't worth billions of dollars like these people. Right. Well, you could be nice. And when I say respectful, right, you could still be an asshole, but if you're respectful for people, people will work for you because they respect you.
Revenue in 6 months,
That's why I was talking about Steve Jobs, right? Steve Jobs was an asshole, but people liked working for him because they respected him.
Was good for my boss's career and therefore good for mine. So I became the youngest vice president at Columbia.
I'm going to back up here for a second.
The largest independent home entertainment company, Vestron.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Well, I've been very fortunate at Columbia Pictures. I figured out how to double the division's revenue in 6 months, which was good.
That's fantastic.
For my boss's career and therefore good for mine. So I became the youngest vice president at Columbia Pictures. And then I was recruited. I got sort of a reputation for like, oh, this guy figures stuff out. And I was recruited to a company called Vestron, which was then the largest home entertainment company that had ambitions to become a diversified entertainment company, which was also my ambition. You know, just refreshing conversation from earlier. I wanted to run a movie studio. Vestron wanted to start a movie studio. So I left to go to Vestron, where within, I think about 9 months of arriving.
So what, he's like in the late 20s now, early 30s?
I became president. So I was now president of a public entertainment company, and I was 29, 3 years.
Holy shit. Right? This is like Asha Sharma. This is like Asha Sharma is what's happening with her right now. Okay? She just keeps moving up, getting these opportunities because she's putting herself in these opportunities. I'm telling you, I think she's going to be the next CEO of Microsoft.
Out of school. It was not my
Meaning she's not going to be in the same position at Xbox.
expectation. And then I had this, ability to take on the new movie division that hadn't actually made any pictures yet. So it was very early. I didn't start it though. I got there and the team was already there, but I gained responsibility for it. And we started making movies.
Go to the new media part though.
So the biggest part of Vestron's business was home entertainment distribution, which was video cassette distribution. They would create movies and put them on video cassettes, which you would rent in video stores. You may
Straight to DVDs. Straight to VHS, straight to DVDs.
recall. And they would also ultimately make movies and put them through the entire distribution system.
Would they buy other content made by other people?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was actually how the business started.
That was the majority of the business?
It
It's like Netflix.
was the business when I got there until they started their own production.
And then the idea is, okay, we're already
We got to
doing
do
that.
this ourselves.
Okay.
In the same way that Netflix started as a distribution company and realized how to be in production.
I've been a subscriber, never turned from Netflix, and when they were just mailing me DVDs. So that was, I don't know, 20 years or
Yeah,
however
me
long.
too.
One of my favorite.
Now look at that for a second, right? The company that he started in the 80s and early 90s is the same thing that Netflix did. Same exact thing. Different format, different type of thing, right? They started as a distributor with other people's stuff and then went into production themselves. They started on tape and then went into production for themselves and then so on and so forth, right?
Favorite things I've ever heard Strauss Zelnick say was that he said the thing that he's best at is he has the ability to identify genuine talent in other people, that he can tell the difference between the real deal and not the real deal. The presenting sponsor of this podcast is Ramp, and I think there's a lesson in the way they're building their company that is applicable to anyone who's trying to make something great in the world. The founders of Ramp know, just like Strauss Zelnick knows, that you always bet on talent. Ramp has the most talented technical team in their industry. That means when your business runs on Ramp, you have top-tier technical...
How did you get from new media is, DVDs and home entertainment to, oh, wow, I think I have a religion on video games and I want to move myself into that industry?
So I was not a pioneer in the video game business. The video game business started in the late 70s and began to grow in the early 80s. And just by way of background, I was really a contrarian about video games because Hollywood had a horrible video game experience, which
So he does have experience in a video game company or video games before he became a CEO of a video game company. He also was part of the movie industry, and I believe he was part of the music industry as well.
I'm not sure too many people would remember today, but in 1982, there was a huge hit called E.T., and
The movie, not the game.
Warner Communications, very forward-thinking, had purchased Atari, which at that time was a leading video game company. They made both hardware and software. And software in those days was cartridges, and cartridges were expensive to make and had a long lead time. So before you released something, you had to decide how many you were going to sell and order it all.
Yes.
And if you were right, you did great. If you were wrong, you had excess inventory.
Right.
You didn't have just-in-time inventory.
Which they don't have now. You had to know how many copies you were going to make to sell. That's why they were collector's items and stuff now. But they made so many ETs and they threw them into a landfill because whoever was in charge then made more copies than fucking dumbasses would sell.
With cartridges, it took too long to create. So Warner's has Atari. They're doing well with it. And they have ET, and they're like, we should make an ET game. And because they didn't really have a lot of experience in how video games were made, they made the game in 5 weeks and put it in the box.
Made the game in 5 weeks. I didn't know that. 5 weeks. It's sort of like games now.
And it was a terrible game. And then they manufactured more games, more cartridges than there were Atari consoles.
What? See, I knew they made a shit ton of games. I didn't know they made more copies of E.T., the video game, than actual Atari consoles that were sold. Who was in charge of that? Did they think that exclusives sold consoles? Did they think like E.T. was going to be a system seller back then?
Not sure what their idea was, but they did. And then it was a disaster. No one bought the game because it was terrible. And there were visuals of the cartridges being plowed into landfill that you can find online today. And the entertainment business is a small business.
Yes.
And everyone was like, oh my God, that nearly tanked Warner Communications. I think they took a write down in 82 of $400 million, which was a lot of money.
Whoa, 400 million back then. Holy shit.
For Warner Communications. So the rest of the business is like, this is a disaster. Like, don't ever get involved with video games. It's a terrible business. Okay, roll the clock forward. I've been at Vestron. I made a bunch of hits. The first picture I greenlight turned into a huge hit. That was very good for my career. Sometimes, it's better to be lucky than smart.
What was his first hit? It was for Paramount Pictures. What was the first one? I forget what he worked on.
Got me recruited to become president of 20th Century Fox just a couple years later when I was 32. So now I'm at Fox.
20th Century Fox.
And we turned around.
Wait a minute. Did he just say 32?
Sometimes, it's better to be lucky than smart. That got me recruited to become president of 20th Century Fox.
Okay, I'm going to rewind that one more time. We're going to back up a little bit, right?
Which was a lot of money in 82 for Warner Communications. So the rest of the business is like, this is a disaster. Like, don't ever get involved with video games. It's a terrible business. Okay, roll the clock forward. I've been at Vestron. I made a bunch of hits. The first picture I greenlight turned into a huge hit. That was very good for my career. Sometimes, it's better to be lucky than smart.
Better be lucky than smart. So basically, he kind of just fell into it, right? He won the lottery at that moment.
That got me recruited to become president of 20th Century Fox just a couple years later when I was 32.
Wow, dude. 32. Holy shit. Again, I'm going to say it again. Asha Sharma's what? Mid-30s? She'll be the next CEO of Microsoft. She's just going to fail right up into there. She's going to make changes to Xbox. They're going to look at that. Satya Nadella is on the way out. She's going to take that place over.
So now I'm at Fox, and we turned around. Fox went from last place to the box office to first place.
Who recruited?
Not unless she does good. No, she will be the next CEO of Roadkill. Mark that down. Mark it down.
You to Fox?
Joe Roth, who was had been newly named the chairman of the studio with the support of Barry Diller and Rupert Murdoch.
Okay, so what was Barry Diller's role at Fox at this point?
He was the CEO of Fox.
He was the CEO, but then Rupert Murdoch
he was the owner.
Yeah, okay.
News Corp owned it.
Okay, but this was a flat-out turnaround.
The studio part was because they were in last place at the box office and they weren't doing well at all, weren't making a lot of money.
But you're 32?
Yes.
How do they identify you as the guy to hire for this?
So it's sort of
because nobody else knew. That's how. Nobody else knew. They were old people, and they're like, I don't know this business. Let's hire the young guy.
long, complicated story, so I'll try to compress it.
Give me whatever version
All
you
right,
want.
so in those days, imagine like the independent business is over here, siloed, and the major business is here, and never the twain shall meet. So Joe Roth was an independent producer, and he had never worked in a major studio.
Right.
And he made movies for Vestron. That's how I knew him. He made Young Guns and Young Guns 2 for Vestron, which were hits for us. And he and I became friendly in the way that I am, well, first of all, a friendly person, if you don't know that.
Yeah,
already.
I know
Secondly,
that.
like,
He seems like a friendly person.
when I work with people, I want to develop relationships with them. And he was a highly creative person, a good guy. So we became friendly, not intimate friends, but friendly. So I'm at Vestron for a couple of years. I'm getting very worried about Vestron's business model for an array of reasons, and Vestron's senior leadership, the person I report
Does that
to.
have anything to do with technology?
It had to do with the fact that the reason for Vestron to exist was that they were pioneer in home entertainment, but everyone else got into home entertainment. You can never have a competitive advantage in the entertainment business through distribution only. That's why Netflix produces content.
That right there is huge, what he just said. Right? And think about that with distribution, as far as you can't just be successful with distribution, hence why they make their own stuff. Hence why Disney is a distributor, but they also make their own movies. Xbox is a distributor, but they also make their own games. Sony is a distributor, but they also make their own games, right? They can't just be successful. Even Steam. Steam is a distributor, and they slowly, I mean, they don't make a lot of games, but they do make their own games, and now they're making their products as well.
You can start with distribution only if you're a pioneer, but you got to immediately go into production, and production is a very tough business, as I said earlier. So Vestron's not capitalized to be a diversified film and television production company with a video game division, a video store division, not video games. And it's apparent to me they're going to have problems, so I start looking around and for a job. And remarkably enough, at the age of 31, people are not exactly lined up knocking on my door to ask me to be president of a major film studio.
Right.
But Joe gets this job as chairman of Fox. And behind the scenes, and this I was not aware of, but I became aware of it. Barry said to Joe, look, you've never worked at a major and you've never run a business. You're an independent producer, but he needed a creative engine to turn around the
So let's hire the young guy that knows what he's doing.
studio. He was aware of that, which was true. You got to hire a business guy to support you here, like to be your partner in building the business. So Joe comes from the independent world. Remember, totally different world than major world.
And this is very important because when you work somewhere, this is why you should be the best that you can be and not be an asshole to somebody and be very respectful, because you never know, especially in the film industry. Like, I worked and I was higher up than somebody else, but this person got their foot in the door and then became higher than me as a producer. And because I was nice to that person, because that person knew I was respectful, because that person liked me, down the road, they hired me for jobs because they got into a position that I never wanted to be in, like a producer, right? So I was a camera guy. They were producers. They're like, hey, I know this person. And they hired me, right? And that is a huge thing where wherever you are, don't be an asshole to people, especially if you want to move up in the world. It doesn't matter how long you've been there and what person comes in. You be nice to everybody because you never know what's going to happen.
He has no relationships in major world, but in an independent world, like I'm kind of well known. Like
Saint says, morning, folks. Well, I'm officially a grandpa as of 1:17 a.m. Tuesday morning. Congratulations. Congratulations. I won't know what that feeling's like until, hopefully, years and years and years down the road, but congratulations, Saint.
I'm president of the biggest independent. We've done really well. I greenlit Dirty Dancing, which was the highest grossing independent
Dirty Dancing. He greenlit Dirty Dancing.
film of all time, then and stayed
Wait, was it really?
relationships in major world. But in an independent world, like I'm kind of well known. Like I'm president of the biggest independent. We've done really well. I greenlit Dirty Dancing, which was the highest grossing independent film of all time, then and stayed that way for a very long time until Pop Quiz. What?
I don't know.
Blair Witch.
Okay.
Anyway, many years.
Was it Blair Witch or was it My Big Fat Greek Wedding? I mean, he's probably right with Blair Witch.
later. So he's looking around. He's like, well, who's the number one guy to be the business guy at the studio? Now, to say that I wasn't the number one guy. I was not the number 100 guy. I was the number one guy in this little narrow independent entertainment business. So he called me up and he was like, do you want to, well, I called him actually to say, congratulations. He said, is that the only reason you're calling? I said, he said, might you want to come here and work here? I was like, coincidentally, yes. And he said, so do you think you'll be in LA anytime soon? I'm like, yeah, like how's Thursday? And he's like, good. So we meet at the Bel Air Hotel for breakfast, which was a big thing in those days.
I'm very familiar with that
Yes,
breakfast.
yeah. And that's where, in those days,
It's an expensive breakfast is what it is.
like if you were chairman, you went to Bel Air for breakfast. If you were president, you went to the Polo Lounge. But anyway, separate issues. So we're meeting at Bel Air on a Friday.
Separate issue. He's giving us a little glimpse of what it is to be like a CEO and who talks where.
Friday morning, because I think I said I'm coming Thursday anyway. Meeting Friday morning for breakfast. And we had a very nice breakfast. And he says, "Do you want to do this thing?" And I said, "That sounds pretty interesting." He said, "Are you free to meet with Barry and Rupert this morning?" And I said, "As it happens."
No, I'm a little busy.
Tied up. Yeah, I have to rearrange my sock drawer. So, so I go over to the studio and I walk into a room with Barry and Rupert. Barry asks the very incisive questions that he does, and Rupert sat rather quietly. I'm not sure he even asked me a question. And
Is that normal for Rupert?
Yeah, he's a great listener. And in those days, he was learning the film business. And remember, I was only going to be responsible for.
It's another thing. A lot of CEOs that are good CEOs, they don't always talk. They listen, right? Sometimes not saying anything's the best, because then you're taking in stuff, and you're not the person, because you hire people that know more than you for certain things, because you can't know everything, right? Sort of like I do my podcast here, right? I can't play all the games. I can't do all the stuff. So we watch other people's videos that are better at it, right? They make better videos. They do more investigation type of stuff. We read the news stories, and we all kind of bring it together.
Film production, and then worldwide film and television and home entertainment distribution.
What year are we in?
This is...
if you listen to what he said, El Dente, he said Dirty Dancing was the highest grossed independent film up until Blair Witch. Well, Blair Witch came out in 2003? Since then, there's probably a shit ton of other films.
86.
So what is the scope of Rupert Murdoch's business at this point? Is it just the newspapers?
It's News Corp. No, it's a pretty big business at this point. It's worldwide newspapers. That's a lot of it. And then, of course, the Fox assets. That's pretty much what it was. But it was a big business.
All right, so take me back to you're in a room with
So
Rupert
I'm in a
Murdoch
room,
Barry
and
Murdoch.
I can visualize it like it was yesterday. And Barry asked me these really tough questions. And I leave the office, and the head of HR walks toward me and says, "Okay, would you like to do this?" And I said, "Sure." And I walked into his office and signed the contract. And that was how it worked.
But did Barry say you're hired, or it was
No, I just
implied?
walked out, and it was like, yeah, like the HR guy was like, "Okay, come on." And that was how it doesn't happen that way anymore. Yeah.
What did you? I want to go back to the story, but I'm curious because I just finished reading Barry's autobiography, which I thought was excellent.
Yeah, it's good.
Did Blair Witch come out in 99? I thought it was 2002. Was it 99? Now you're going to make me look it up. I'm going to look it up. Let's look it up.
What did you learn? Because you
Let's see. Blair Witch release date. Oh, it was 99. Yeah. So when was Blair Witch? Was it Blair Witch 2 I was thinking of in 2002? Yeah, it's 1999. So, okay, hold on a second. Best independent of all time. 50 greatest independent films of all time. Reservoir Dogs, 1992. Donnie Darko, 2001. The Terminator, 1984. But these are I guess it's money-wise, right? It would have to be box office. Best independent films of all time, box office. Yeah, okay, so Paranormal Activity, Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction made $213 million. Highest grossing independent films. All right, let's go to this. Can we go by date? All right, so let's see. Dances with Wolves. Where was Dirty Dancing even on this list? The Graduate, Halloween, Dances with Wolves, Silent, Pulp Fiction. Dirty Dancing's not even on here. Dirty Dancing's not even on here. Did he say the right film? That doesn't make any sense. 1967, right? Then we go 91, Silence of the Lambs, Dances with Wolves. Dirty Dancing's not on here. Right, so 95. 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125, 126, 127, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 134, 135, 136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, 158, 159, 160, 161, 162, 163, 164, 165, 166, 167, 168, 169, 170, 171, 172, 173, 174, 175, 176, 177, 178, 179, 180, 181, 182, 183, 184, 185, 186, 187, 188, 189, 1 What the fuck did Dirty Dancing make? Now we're going to have to look that up. $214.5 million worldwide. Okay, worldwide. 214 million. All right, so 214 million. So, and that came out when? 1987. So 1987. All right, so 214, it got beat by Dancing with Wolves in 1990. So 3 years later. Yeah. So 3 years later, it got beat. So what is he talking about?
You've like worked with him and like known him.
No. Let's be clear. I worked for him, and for 4 years, and I learned an enormous amount. I've stayed friendly with him ever since.
Can you give me
I
some?
have lunch with him a couple times a year.
So can you tell me like some of the things that you've learned from Barry, or things that you think stand out just about him as a person?
Yeah, I mean, he taught me the entertainment business, so I learned everything from him. Because remember, I knew very little.
Maybe that's how he got the job, right? Maybe he got the job because he's like, I was in charge of Dirty Dancing, the most successful independent film. And they're like, really? You got the job. Maybe that's what sold it for him.
I mean, I was really, and thankfully I knew what I didn't know. To this day, I'm good at knowing what I don't know. And I'm an avid learner, but I've never resisted learning more. And I'm comfortable asking questions, including dumb questions. I have to be, because I kept getting thrown into these big jobs much earlier than I should have been.
He kind of had.
At least he admits that. Think we'll read that in the book of Asha Sharma down the road?
That in his career, right?
Okay, in a different way. He really came up more on the creative side.
Yeah.
And he also innovated more creatively than I did.
And I bring it up because a lot of people say, well, Strauss Zelnick didn't know anything about video games, and look at him. So that's why I keep bringing up her, because she's brand new at Xbox.
If I can give myself credit for innovation, to be more on the business side and less on the creative side.
But is there anything that you remember, like discussions you had or stuff he told you, like implicitly that you applied?
No, I just remember the form of the discussion, which was a lot of very robust debate with a lot of heat around it. And I used to say to people, we argue all the time, Barry and I, and he's right 99% of the time. But 1% of the time, I'm actually right. So that's how I learned from him. And he was patient with me most of the time. But you had to have a strong stomach he was famous and fierce in those days. He was not like junior. He was a very senior in the industry already, never mind what he's done since. And he was scary. Oh, and by the way, like, it's not like if this job didn't work out at Fox, or other people lining up to hire me. Like, I was young, I was newly married, I had a kid, I had a mortgage. Like, I needed to keep my job, but I understood that this was his dialectic. And if you backed down, if you didn't argue, you were done. I understood it wasn't personal. It just wasn't personal. Other people took it personally, as like a personal attack or criticism.
Yeah, that's what, in business, you can't take anything personal. Business is business,
I just knew that it wasn't. It's not like it was personal on the good side either. It's not like if he were sitting here, he'd say, oh, yes, I love Strauss. I thought he was so amazing. And he might not even remember I worked for him in those days. Therefore, I knew it wasn't personal. It wasn't about me. It was about the thing itself. It was arriving at the right conclusion. And I wanted to arrive at the right conclusion, too. And I wanted to learn. I had some really bad days with him, don't get me wrong. And it was very, very taxing. One of the senior execs at the studio was a woman named Lucy Salhaney, who ran television. Lucy and I are very close. And we had a so-called president's meeting every Monday, which was Rupert and Barry and all the division heads. And I was in that meeting, and I was, 10 or 15 years younger than the next youngest person in the meeting. And I was the one who would argue. Like, I argued all the time. Many other people were just like, shut up and sit there. And Lucy said, you remind me, remember when you were little and you had that blow-up clown doll that everyone had that you would punch and it would go over and then bounce back up? You remember that?
Yes.
Everyone had that. I had that. And she said, that's you. You just get punched, you go over, you keep coming back up.
But are you naturally like argumentative?
No, not at all. I'm much more collaborative.
I thought so. This is the vibe I get off of.
But that didn't matter. I wasn't in charge. It was his style, and I had to comport with his style to get to the right
I've been with people like that.
conclusion.
What are you learning from Rupert at this time? I mean, you're in these weekly meetings with him, with maybe the most successful, maybe the most successful person in media of all time.
He was extraordinary. What I learned from him really was in a different moment.
If you guys don't know, it's Rupert Murdoch, by the way.
Which is he over-leveraged the company during my tenure there by buying Star. And the company had real trouble with its debt facility. And my recollection is they had a diversified debt facility with like 150 banks and a whole cross-default mechanism. And which was great when things are going well because they kept the interest costs low, and horrible if things go badly because of the cross-defaults.
This is why it's very important. I know people are like, don't go to school or whatever. it's very important in high school to get good grades, to get into the right college, because in the right college, even though believe what you believe about college, it's not really about the education. It's more about the connections. Okay. And certain businesses only pull from certain colleges, right? So if you're smart and get into the college, it's not about what your grade point average is at that point. It's about the people you meet in the college, the things that you do in college that people down the road give you the opportunity because of the college you're in or because of the other person that you knew and knows you from the same school or knows, right? Exactly. Saying it's about the networking, right? And a lot of people think that college is like, oh, it's a waste of time. It's not really a waste of time, right? It's like anything. Again, like I said earlier, right? On the film set, a PA, which is a production assistant, could be a production assistant on one film, but then they networked and all of a sudden they become a producer, or they become a first AD, or they become a high up on one of the staffing houses or whatever. And all of a sudden, they remember you for whatever reason, and you get your opportunity. And it was all because of the networking. Had nothing to do with your education and what you know. It's who you know, not what you know. Right? First says, yeah, good grades and connections are what keep trying to tell the kids. Hopefully, they'll be listening better as they get older. Who you know can be a real advantage. It's 100% an advantage. If you have a higher grade point average, right? You're the smartest kid in the class, but I know the person and we're both going for the same job. They don't know nothing about you, but they know exactly who I am and how I work. That might give me the advantage over you just because of networking.
Suddenly things go badly, and he was at risk of losing the whole thing. I went on the roadshow with the bank roadshow with him for a couple of the visits. And what I found remarkable was...
That's actually true, Saint. What you just said. If you only go to class, yes, college is a waste. Yeah, it's about the interactions that you have while you're at college. Like, get out of your dorm room. Go to a football game. Go to a bar. Go hang out with friends. Go do stupid but legal shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, make as many connections as possible while you're in college.
He was cool the whole time. He was...
I'm gonna rewind for a second.
Show with him badly, and he was at risk of losing the whole thing. I went on the roadshow with the bank roadshow with him for a couple of the visits. And what I found remarkable was he was cool the whole time. He wasn't overconfident. He just wasn't ruffled. I mean, he was at risk of losing his whole business, which had been his family's business. And it just didn't faze him. He just kept going. And he was laser focused on the conclusion, and he reached the conclusion just by being focused and calm. That's really what I learned from him.
It's incredible. Okay, so you're 32.
Mr. Z says, originally as a musician, I thought being great was enough. Nope. In the industry, it's too small. They want someone they know. You have to hang and network. It was great at self-promotion, deadly. Yeah, if you have social anxiety, it's hard. Yeah. My social anxiety watching you.
You're doing this turnaround. What are the insights you're deriving at Fox that you're going to wind up using later on when you do take two?
So the biggest insight, well, we can get into how I work with creative people because that's probably the most important long-term thing. But I think going back to your question about video games, so it's now mid-'80s because I've been there for a couple of years, and I now really understand the economics of the movie business. So like maybe I'm slow to pick it up, but I got it. And they're terrible. They're terrible underlying economics.
Hence why you got to make so many films. It's a numbers game.
And they were bad, and they've been bad since 1955, since the consent decree that basically disaggregated distribution from production and turned the motion picture business from a studio system into a boutique system. And a rubric for a good versus bad entertainment business is a boutique system is generally bad and a studio system is generally good or can be good. The studio system was long gone. And studio system means your creative talent, all your talent is on the payroll. Boutique system is they're not on your payroll, they can auction their services. And obviously, if talented people are auctioning their services for every project, it's going to be much more expensive than if they're on your payroll in success. So you have a structure in the motion picture business since 55, essentially. It didn't happen overnight in 55, but by the late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, where it's heads I win, tails you lose. If the project does well, the boutique extracts a lot of the value because the deal they were able to negotiate, so they didn't go across the street. And if it's a flop, you as the studio bear the entire cost of the flop, obviously. Whereas in the in a studio system, recorded music before its most recent changes was essentially a studio system. Video games to this day is a studio system. In success, you obviously pay your creative people, and we are incredibly generous in the way that we compensate our creative people for success. But the company also has an opportunity to create a return. I was aware that the economics of the film business were really lousy and that you can't fight that. There was a Buffett aphorism, which I'm going to get wrong, but the aphorism was to the effect of, if you take a management team with a reputation for brilliance and a business with a reputation for being bad, it is the business's reputation that will stay intact.
Yeah.
And I guess.
Oh yeah, 100%. So Robert Downey Jr. and like Chris Hemsworth and Chris Evans, when they first made their first film for Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man, they were making like $250,000 to $500,000 for the film. By the time they got to, the tail end of Avengers, they were making $10 million, $15 million, $20 million, right? So as they keep the actors there, as they bring back the directors, as they keep doing stuff, they have to keep paying them more and more because they sign contracts and stuff. They're like, yeah, you're for a 5-picture deal. You get a 20% increase every time, based on what the movie does, right? So it has to make more money, than the last film. Some actors take points, right? So they give points to actors, like the main actor, producers, directors.
I didn't, that wasn't an elegant version, but you get the idea.
Yep.
So I actually saw this in Forbes magazine. Those days, you read magazines. It was in the back. Remember, they had quotes in the back of Forbes. And
Back in
I read,
those days, you read magazines.
that's what I'm dealing with here. And I've been really fortunate. Vestron did well because we made hits, and Fox is doing well because we make hits. But you can't fight the underlying structure of the business. So my blinding flash of the obvious was, I thought to myself, see, here's the thing. As it turns out, my ambition had been to run a movie studio. And as it turns out, my ambition should have been to run a movie studio in 1927. Not a studio in 1991, whatever it is. So I think to myself, what is the moral equivalent of the motion picture business in the 1920s? I thought, it's a video game business.
How did you know that?
Because I was a student of the business, and I was aware that video games were a thing, and I was aware that they were, despite the issue that Atari and Warner.
And this is why most video game companies are struggling just like the movie industry is. Right? There's a lot of video game studios now, right? The stat from 2 years ago, 18,000 games. Last year was 19,000 games. This year might be 19,500 games. So many people are making video games and stuff now, and it really is just, it's like rampant. And the industry, there's so many flops. There's so many flops in the movie industry back in the day. So many. Because they just made everything to see what stuck. And that's what they're doing with video games.
Communications had. It was still a growing business. And by the early 90s, it was a real business. It was a small business, but it was a real business. And I looked at it and I said, I think this is going to be huge. And remember, that was a very unpopular view in the entertainment business because of the Atari disaster, which people still saw in bright, flashing neon.
So almost the way you get what you called in the past, like the religion on video games, is by comparing it to like what is the movie studio version of that today.
Yeah, to your point about being a student of the business.
Okay, so then you have that insight.
Yeah. So now I've been at this studio for whatever it was, nearly 4 years, and we've had a great run. And I think I got to go do the video game business.
So what's your next move?
I went to Rupert and I said, next big business is the video game business. And I remember sitting in his office and I said, so I think we should be in that business. He said, great, go start one. And I said, yeah.
He's like, go start one. I don't want anything to do with it.
I'd love to do that, while I do my day job, which was now I've been promoted. I was now running the creative and business side, working for then Peter Chernin, because Joe and Barry both had left. And he said, great, you could do it. We'll give you the capital. You can pursue it and build a video game business.
Can you imagine? Could you imagine just walking up to somebody and being like, hey, I want to build this whole thing. And they're like, yeah, that's fine. Go ahead. How much you need? Blank check. Holy Christ.
I said, well, the only thing is I see it as an entrepreneurial venture, so I'd like a piece of it. And he said, no interest. That's not an offer. So I was like,
there you go. Rupert's like, yeah, go ahead. Start it for me. You want a piece? No. That's not how this works. I'll give you the money, but you're not getting a piece of the pie.
Why do you say no?
Because Rupert doesn't have partners in his businesses except as public shareholders.
Okay.
And it's just there's nothing like this. There's nothing wrong with that. It was just his approach. And he didn't pause, but it wasn't like he paused. Oh, let me think about it. He was like, no. So I was like, okay, I get it.
Because he knows that he has to go through too many hoops to then spread the wealth to yet another mouth.
Yes, I have to think about, am I serious about this thing? And then coincidentally, I got a call from a recruiter saying there's a startup pre-revenue video game business in Silicon Valley that is doing the most advanced video games. They're really going to be the next generation of video games. Are you interested? and I left. I took a 95% pay cut and moved my family from our beautiful house in West LA.
That's respect right there, at least for me anyway, right? From knowing what you want, going to one of the most powerful people in the media industry at that time, saying, hey, we should get into this, but because he doesn't want to give you a percentage, you said, I'm going to go for this, took a 95% cut, moved your family because of the driving factor that he believed in what he wanted to do.
To Atherton, to a rental house that was going to be torn down. So it was maybe a little dated inside. It was about to be torn down for a golf course.
Because you wanted equity, you wanted ownership in the...
I wanted to build something and I wanted equity, but primarily what motivated me was this notion of being at the cutting edge.
The problem with doing work for other people without getting a share is that you're working your ass off and you get the same. You might get extra couple of vacation days or maybe a little bonus here and there, but doing your own thing and then working your ass off is X times the amount of money you can make by the time that you put into your business.
Of media and entertainment, and the fact that it was driven by technology made it even more appealing.
Did you think that you were always going to be an entrepreneur? Because at this point, if I understand your career, you've always just had jobs. You were a phenomenal operator.
First says, I admire the drive and work ethic. However, I couldn't work as much as I'm sure he did. That also get where he is. I work hard, but I keep it within the 9 to 5. I'm living my life, but I can respect him. Same. My driving factor when I was younger is much different today, right? When I was younger, first, I thought that money was everything. I thought money was everything. I thought money equals happiness, right? And through a bunch of different things throughout my life, I got to work. My uncle started a business, self-employed. I got to work with him, and he taught me the whole business. It was like making little Teflon pieces, and I could have made as much money as I wanted, right? But I had to do it. I had to do it in New York, and I didn't want to live in New York, right? Even though I wanted to move it and down here to Florida, he didn't want it. Even though I was working and he was training me to take over the business, I just didn't want to do what he wanted, right? And then do what I do now, right? I do this 2.5 hours. Like if I really wanted to be successful on YouTube, like a Asthma Gold or someone else that's making a lot of money off the stuff, I would be doing this 8, 9, 10-hour days. But I'm not. Because I'm doing this because I love doing this, not because I want, like, I need to do this, right? Like, I'm not rich I'm below, right? I live below the means that we have. We get to take vacations. We have a nice life for what we have, right? We live in a small, quaint house, okay? We don't do a lot of stuff, okay? I would love to do 10 hours a day. But if I do that, then I'm not hanging out with my kid. I'm not hanging out with my wife. We're not going on vacation. We're not doing the things that we want to do. And I'd rather live the life where we're happy than I have a lot of money and we're fucking miserable because you're not hanging out with the kids and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Water Bear says, I prefer to wipe my tears of sadness with $100 bills instead of tissues.
You're the business guy, but did you in your heart, you're like, I feel like I should be running my own thing. I should be an entrepreneur.
Yes, and I wasn't ready, as it turns out. So, but I did think that. And I know it was...
That is true, Al Dente, right? I learned money isn't happiness. I learned a shit ton of money is happiness.
really a born entrepreneur because I was a good employee.
Let me rewind here for a second.
That you were always going to be an entrepreneur? Because at this point, if I understand your career, you've always just had jobs. You were a phenomenal operator. You're a business guy, but did you in your heart, you're like, I feel like I should be running my own thing. I should be an entrepreneur?
Yes, and I wasn't ready, as it turns out. So, but I did think that.
And this is him in the mid 30s now.
And I know I wasn't really a born entrepreneur because I was a good employee and I liked running big businesses for other people. But I also knew that if I really wanted to build something meaningful, I had to take a risk.
Why do you say you weren't ready?
I didn't have much money and I had a young family. And I think there are kind of two stages in life to be an entrepreneur: before you have anything and any responsibilities and obligations, and after you have some protection. And I was right in the middle. I had some responsibilities, I had no protection. So emotionally, it was very challenging for me. And I don't think I was emotionally ready. So I did it for a couple of years. Crystal Dynamics was very successful, not hugely successful, but it still exists today.
I don't think I know the story of Crystal Dynamics.
That was the company that recruited me.
Tell me about the company.
Well, it was set up by Kleiner Perkins. They were backing two very talented women with backgrounds at Sega at the time, and they needed a CEO. and they wanted a CEO from the entertainment business. So they hired me.
And literally, it was a video game studio?
Yeah. So I set it up. I got them distribution deals.
What year was that? What's going on, Mr. Luke? What year did he have? Chad, can you look that up so I don't have to close the video down? What year did Strauss Zelnick do Crystal Dynamics?
Raised a bunch of capital, lots of capital, because I hadn't raised much capital. And then I was recruited to go turn around a huge record company back in the days when that was not an oxymoron. And I decided I'm really not ready to be an entrepreneur going forward quite yet, given this opportunity. And that record company, which was called BMG, agreed that I could start a video game division inside the company.
Before you took the job?
Correct.
Okay, because I was going to say the jump from, you got religion on video games, and now we're jumping from video games to music.
Recorded
Why'd you
music.
do that? Okay, so.
Another turnaround. It was really interesting.
Mr. Z says, great, insightful interview. Very relatable. Like or hate him, he's very genuine talking about himself. I said the same thing in the very beginning. I think he's very approachable. You know what I mean? Like, he seems down to earth.
I'd never done music, and they said I could start a video game company.
Strauss Zelnick prides himself on running what he calls a rational organization. He said that he tells his talent that the company they build will be efficient, organized, will make sound decisions. Axon.ai/Senra.
So talk about starting.
93 to 95. Thank you. All right, so 93 to 95. So again, he's not a CEO of Take-Two yet. Okay? He's not a CEO. He's been a CEO of other companies and other things. And now he's not only been in the video game industry since 93, and people are like, oh, he doesn't know anything about video games. But he literally ran a video game company. Literally ran a video game company. Now, obviously, at the point of 93, he didn't run a video game company, but he also didn't take over Take-Two until like, what, 2007, 2011, something like that? So we're talking 12 years being with a video game company before, you know what I mean?
The video game company inside of BMG.
So I hired Jay Moses, who is now on the board of Take-Two, and the model was external development, so making deals with external developers, and we were going to use the BMG recorded music distribution system to distribute worldwide, which was pretty smart because we had this massive worldwide system of local offices, so we could slot right into it without adding any overhead. That was the beauty of doing this.
Say more about that.
Well, in those days, when you distributed records, you actually had to have physical offices to go sell physical discs,
right.
CDs, beginning of CDs and the end of vinyl to stores.
Very similar to video games at the time because you're buying physical.
Exactly. You're buying cartridges and then eventually discs.
Were any other music companies doing music and video games?
No.
Oh, that's smart.
No. So we...
Not until Sony, which was, what, 95?
We put aside a small amount of capital for BMG because in those days BMG's revenue was $5 billion a year. And it was very profitable. And I think we devoted around $40 million to investing in this basket of games and building up the distribution system and hiring a team.
Can I pause you there?
Sure.
At this point, video game, like there's no free to play. There's no, you can't download anything over the internet, right?
Correct.
So the economics of the video game is very similar to recorded music. It's you're buying.
Somewhere between toys and recorded music. It was a top 10 business and most of the sales were in the fourth quarter. It had a lot of aspects of the toy business. And there were still cartridges. It hadn't shifted entirely over to discs. So
fourth quarter, guys, which is, January, February, March type of thing.
You had all the messy inventory characteristics of a cartridge business. So it had plenty of hair on it as a business that it no longer has.
But did you have any inclination at that time that there would be an end to the cartridge or?
Oh, sure. No, I knew it was becoming a disc business. Absolutely.
But you couldn't predict what was going to happen after disc.
I would assume he's going to say no, but he knew it was going to change. Like, he's not going to say it went to digital, but he didn't know the next form, right? It went from cartridges to disc, from disc to...
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
That there would be an end to the cartridge or...
Oh, sure. No, I knew it was becoming a disc business. Absolutely.
But you couldn't predict what was going to happen after disc.
No.
Okay.
No.
Nobody could. It was smaller discs. You know what I mean? Or, you know what I mean? Like, no one's going to be like, yeah, it's all digital. Facts.
So go back to where we are in the story. Sorry.
So anyhow, by the way, I'm running the record company. That's my day job because it's a big business. Jay is building up the video game company with my oversight. But it's a skunkworks project. It's a tiny little
Yeah, you
project.
said 40 million compared to revenue of 5 billion.
It's like a rounding error.
Okay.
And his team created a whole bunch of properties. And we're getting ready to distribute some of them as they've been completed. And there was a new CEO of Bertelsmann, the parent company at BMG, whose name was Thomas Middle.
Waterbear says, so how did Nintendo succeed in bucking that system? Because they were the system. There was nobody else because of what Nintendo did in the 80s and saved the video game industry, they got so much goodwill, okay, that whatever they did, this is why we call them Crazy Uncle Nintendo, okay, because they did whatever they wanted because they made so much money off of software sales, and there was no competition for them for like a decade. There was no competition. Sega was there, but they didn't pull the numbers in that Nintendo did, right? So when Nintendo was starting to do like their thing, when they went from cartridge and everyone was going to disc, and they're like, oh, we're going to go to smaller mini discs for the GameCube. They're just doing that proprietary stuff. They knew they had their hardcore audience already because they had 12 years prior, more than that, 15 years prior.
Off, and he decided the video game business was a terrible business, and he told me to divest the whole thing. And I said, wait, we've already invested. The only thing left to do is distribute the titles. That's the only thing that's left. So let me do that, and then you decide, depending on how it goes. And he said, no, just sell it to the highest bidder. I said, but there won't be any bidders. It's like,
you got to remember, Sony was in the beta. Sony beta tapes were the leader of the industry for video back then. Then the VHS tape came out, right? Then it went to disc, and then Sony had the Blu-ray.
in production video games, there's not.
I'm gonna rewind for a second because I missed something there.
Game business was a terrible business, and he told me to divest the whole thing. And I said, wait, we've already invested. The only thing left to do is distribute the titles. That's the only thing that's left. So let me do that, and then you decide, depending on how it goes. And he said, no, just sell it to the highest.
So this is 93, 95. Between 93 and 95, when they told the guy he was with said, sell the entire company.
Bidder. I said, but there won't be any bidders. It's like in production video games, there's not going to be a lot of appetite for this. And he said, I don't care, just sell it. So
Why?
he just didn't believe.
Okay.
He was.
That's my point, Krebsy. And I was like, I don't know if, I was like, he's different. I didn't know that he was with Crystal Dynamics, but I didn't think that he had no experience. But people ran with it, and I didn't know, right? I'm like, okay, but he also ran a bunch of companies beforehand. I did know that. I just didn't know that he had that he had experience.
The person who, bet on his gut. It didn't work out very well for him at all. But that's a separate story for another day.
You could tell that he still holds a little bit of a grudge there. Like, watch him.
He just didn't believe.
Okay.
He was a person who, bet on his gut. It didn't work out very well for him at all.
Did you see his look on his face? He's like, fuck, I still think about that guy.
But that's a separate story for another day. And so
yeah, his whole background from his college thesis to in the industry was all about entertainment.
So we go out to market, not a lot of bids, and we find a buyer, and the buyer agrees. It's a little tiny public company with I want to say roughly $100 million market cap, and they agree to give us 20% of their company in stock for the business, such as it was. So $20 million. And so we close that deal. Now we own 20% of this company. And I go to Thomas and I say, listen, we have $5 billion in revenue. Like, this is $20 million of stock. It's a rounding error on a rounding error. Why don't we just hold the stock, see what happens? He said, no, sell the stock in the open market. So we sell the stock.
Dude?
Precisely. So
This guy, not this guy, the guy he worked for didn't see the insight that he saw.
Sell the stock in the open market for, wait for it, $14 million.
Okay.
So
So you lost that you had $20 million in stock. You sold it for, what do you say? 14?
So we sell the stock in the open market for, wait for it, $14 million.
Okay.
So a month later, this public company launches the first property that we had completed into the market.
Oh no! Don't
So
say
the
it.
name of the public company was Take-Two Interactive, and the first release was Grand Theft Auto.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Look at that smug face, like not a smug face, like holy shit. Yeah. He had the golden goose. He had the golden goose, but the guy that he was working with was like, no, sell it. Sell it. And he had to let it go. Not only let it go, but not see it again for like 12 years. Holy shit.
Oh no! Don't
So
say
the
it.
name of the public company was Take-Two Interactive, and the first release was Grand Theft Auto.
We're going to pause right here, though. Grand Theft Auto is the most...
Now, let's be honest here. We're not talking about 3D Grand Theft Auto. We're talking about top-down Grand Theft Auto. Okay? We're talking about the very first Grand Theft Auto, which I played. Loved the game, but it didn't sell like what Grand Theft Auto sells today. Hindsight's 2020. You know what I mean? Like, you can look back and go, holy shit. Like, he didn't know. They didn't know. Like, nobody even that played the game knew it was going to be what it was until it turned the corner from the top-down to Grand Theft Auto 3, where it turned into the three-dimensional.
Successful media property of all time? Is that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
oh my God.
all right. So that's my
I want Ryan just look at his face again.
$14 million. So a month later, this public company launches the first property that we had completed into the market.
Oh no! Don't
So
say
the
it.
name of the public company was Take-Two Interactive, and the first release was Grand Theft Auto.
We're gonna
Look at his face. Just he's like, yeah.
we're gonna pause right here, though. Grand Theft Auto is the most successful media property of all time. Is that?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Oh my God.
all right. So that's my war story on being in the video game business. Now remember, now I'm out of the video game business. I'm running a record.
So he was in the video game business, was in the entertainment business, right? Distribution and stuff like that. Was in the entertainment business, was in the video game business, then went back to the record business.
Company.
So now we're talking like 96, 97.
Be pissed off at this time, right?
You know, I didn't own the company, and I don't get pissed off easily. Like, I understood I'm on the payroll. This is my boss. He gets to make strategic decisions like this. I knew it was a foolish decision.
But how could you think that you were going to work? Maybe you didn't. There's no way if you see this person making decisions like that you're like, oh, I'm going to work for this person.
That's correct. I did
Okay.
leave. I did leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what happens next?
I realized it's time to go. And now I'm ready to be an entrepreneur because I have a vision for what I want to build, and I have a few bucks in the bank, so my family's not going to starve. Because I saved well, and I made a lot of money, as a professional executive. So I decided to start ZMC.
Explain what ZMC is, though.
Today it's a private equity firm.
Okay.
So we raise capital from institutions in funds, and then we buy companies and build them and then eventually sell them to create a return.
Okay.
But at that time, that wasn't the vision. The vision was to create an entity that would build a portfolio of media and entertainment properties that are supercharged by technology.
Conscious enough.
That was the thesis. And again, this is 01. And I thought it was a pretty obvious thesis, but in retrospect, it was not.
And if that is your thesis, then video games is the perfect.
Well,
thing
yes
to
and no,
choose.
actually. I didn't have an appetite to go back into video games when I started ZMC. First of all, I've been there and done that twice. Secondly,
Well, yeah, because you got dicked over, and you're like, I'm making a lot of money with this stuff over here in the music industry.
it still was kind of a top 10 fourth quarter toy-ish business with bad inventory characteristics.
Oh, yeah, because it's 2001. Okay.
Yeah, and no, so and it was cyclical, and
Okay.
the console generation
Oh, it's 2001 now.
would cause the business sort of come and go, and I wasn't anxious to get back into that business.
What's the first thing you're doing with ZMC?
We started
Buying Take-Two stock?
No, I wish. No, direct marketing companies that were becoming digital, market research companies that were becoming digital. We turned around a Japanese record company of all things. So, whatever deals that we could find, often very, very troubled companies. Because remember, we had no capital. Oh, I left that part out. We had no capital.
So how do you start a company with no capital?
Exactly. So I put in $300,000 of my own money. I convinced people to work for free. We borrowed offices. We had one fewer chair than we.
Let me rewind that just for a second, right?
Remember, we had no capital. Oh, I left that part out. We had no capital.
So how do you start a company with no capital?
Exactly. So I put in $300,000 of my own money. I convinced people to work for free.
People to work for free, probably gave stock options and stuff like that. It's always amazing to look at when you go back and listen to these CEOs and like companies that started up like Amazon and Google and Apple. And they have these like stories where it came out of a garage and came out of, they 7 guys or whatever it was. And they gave the massage therapist that they couldn't pay stock options and then went on to be a multi-billionaire. You know what I mean? Like people working for free, people just trying to believe into something. They're like, yeah, I got nothing else going on, so yeah, I'll work for you for free.
Borrowed offices. We had one fewer chair than we had
Borrowed offices.
people, and I'm not kidding. The offices were so horrible that if you went to the restroom, like half the time it was flooding. And by flooding, I mean like water sheeting down the walls. You couldn't believe this was actually going on. And I would run around and talk to capital providers, professional financial services firms, and say, here's our vision. We're trying to buy companies to build them up and create value. And they'd be like, okay, well, show us the company you want to buy. We'll consider putting capital in. And then I would go to targets to come.
Just Enough says, podcasts that look like this produced seem like propaganda studios to me. I mean, if I had the money to buy cameras and invite people over to do a in-person podcast, I would have a professional set, and it wouldn't be propaganda just because I want to make a professional looking thing. But that's just me, right? Now I understand what you're saying, right? I understand what you're saying. Obviously, he's going around because he's got a book out and Grand Theft Auto is coming out, so he's on the marketing thing, just marketing himself, as the head of Grand Theft Auto's company. But I mean, I wouldn't say that this is super produced, because if you watch if you watch his other podcasts, I don't really think it's propaganda.
And say, I'd like to buy you. And they'd be like, okay, great. Show us the capital that you have to buy us and we'll have a conversation. So this is going on for like 6 months. And I'm like, there is a problem here. Like, empty suitcase and going to a lot of meetings. It became obvious to me that it was an issue when we were at this very fancy private equity firm. And they said the same thing. They were like, you guys are great. You all have great resumes. So we'd love it if you would bring us a deal and, we'll put money into the deal. And it was at the end of the day and we're packing up and they've left the room. And there was a cleaning person who's emptying the garbage. And I said to my colleagues, I said, I guarantee you that after we leave, someone who works here is going to go to that person and say, incidentally, if you see a really interesting company, why don't you come talk to us about it? We'll finance it for you. I realized these were empty words. They said it to everyone. They were just looking for free options.
Yeah.
So I had to find this lightning in a bottle where there'd be an opportunity to buy a company with third-party capital. And thankfully, one came along. It was called Columbia Music Entertainment. It was a deeply troubled Japanese record company. And I had recorded music experience.
El Dente says, he looks like he's sold his soul. You can see it in his dead eyes.
The short story is, amazingly enough, we turned it around.
And it's because your idea is...
Hold on, maybe rewind that.
It's lightning in a bottle where there'd be an opportunity to buy a company with third-party capital. And thankfully, one came along. It was called Columbia Music Entertainment. It was a deeply troubled Japanese record company. And I had recorded music experience. The short story is, amazingly enough, we turned it around.
And it was because your idea is to buy, improve, and sell.
Correct.
You're not holding for...
We did. It took us a long time. It took 9 years. But it was very difficult because it was recorded music in the early 2000s. It was Japan. It had a 0.5% market share. It had way too much debt. It had no hits whatsoever.
So wait, how do you... because you're saying early 2000s, now you're getting the iPod, now you're getting iTunes, you're getting Napster, it was in 99. Why would you even
do it? It was early 2000s, right? This all has happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so why would I want to be in the record business? Yeah, I didn't want to be in the record business. I was like, been there, done that. I had no interest, and it was a really horrible company. So it came about because one of the capital providers that we spoke to was a company called Ripplewood. And there's a partner there named Jeff Hendren. And Columbia Music had been part of a sort of a two-part company. And essentially, Ripplewood wanted to own the good part. And they wanted to find some person like me to run the bad part.
Run the bad part.
I didn't know that entirely, but okay. I was smart enough to figure that out until it was too late. And so Jeff, who was I'd had a couple of meetings with, and let's buy a company together, called me up and said, here's a perfect deal for you for your first deal. It's recorded music, which Sure, it's in Japan and they have 0.5% market share and altogether too much debt and probably there are criminals lurking around, but nonetheless. And so I said, well, I know the business because I was in a recorded music business. I said, it's a horrible company. It's a disaster. Like, don't do this deal. And I'm not doing this deal. So he said, okay. And a week later, he calls me and he said, we're still looking at this business. We really think you ought to look at it seriously with us because you'd be perfect for it and be your first deal. And I said, okay, listen, it's a public company, so I'll pull all the public docs and I'll look at them over the weekend. And my partner at the time, Ben Feder, and I spent the weekend pouring through the documents. On Monday, I called Jeff and I said, it's even worse than I thought. Just run in the other direction. Don't do this deal. It's a disaster. And he said, okay, thank you. Called me a week later. I promise all of this exactly. Like, there's no hyperbole. I sometimes can be accused.
Maybe it's a little bit hyperbole.
Hyperbole. This is not one of those moments. I remember I'm in my dining room and there's like a wall phone, like a long time ago. This is 01. And he calls and I pick up and he says, look, we're going to do this deal. And we really want your firm to take it on and be responsible for building and managing it. Obviously we had an upside in the deal and they would put up the capital. And I said, Jeff, I told you it was really bad. Then I spent a weekend looking at it. It's even worse than I thought. Like, we're passing, you should pass. He said, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. He said, just how busy are you? I laughed and I was like, you make a very good point. He said, I think you should do this deal. So we did. It was the hardest deal I've ever done in my life. It was terrible. Terrible. I could tell, we could literally take 5 hours and I could tell you every horrible problem this company had. But I remembered my experience with Rupert and I became laser focused on just turning it around and getting to the finish line, no matter.
Yeah, because it's such a shitty company that you don't have to turn it around like drastically to make a shit ton of money. You can just turn it around, make a profit, and make your money back off of the shitty company, right? Or that section of the company.
What it took. Because I realized correctly that...
Because to start a company to build up what they already had that they had to turn around would be harder than just to turn around the business.
If someone gave me $300 million to take over a company and I failed, that would be my last deal. And that's true. That's not dramatic. That's true. No one's giving you more money after that. So we turned it around, remarkably enough, and got about a 22% IRR in the recorded music business in the early 2000s. Unheard.
That's insane. And this is the first deal of...
That was the first EMC deal.
That's incredible.
And that's how we began to generate income, to build up a team, which I really...
Wait a minute. Let me rewind that for a
dramatic.
second.
That's true. No one's giving you more money after that. So we turned it around, remarkably enough, and got about a 22% IRR in the recorded music business in the early 2000s. Unheard.
That's insane. And this is the first deal of...
That was the first EMC deal.
That's incredible.
And that's how we began to generate income, to build up a team, which I reinvested and build an enterprise and buy more companies.
So take me to Take-Two.
All right, so it's 07. We started raising our own capital in 07 and 08. So it's the very end of our being, was at that time called a fundless sponsor. Now today they call it an independent sponsor because it sounds much nicer than fundless. But I promise you we were fundless. So even though we'd done 6 deals at that point, we had very little capital, very tiny balance sheet. I'd become, quote, friendly with Carl Icahn. I put it in quotes because he is the man who said, on Wall Street, if you want a friend, buy a dog. But in any case, I had a relationship with Carl. And the relationship took the form of, and I did this intentionally, was I'd go over and visit with him. He's a lot of fun to spend time with. And I'd bring him ideas. And I brought him an idea initially for something that we couldn't act on, but he could because he did public markets investing. And he said, listen, I just want you to know, I'm happy to listen to your ideas, but I'm not paying you for them. And I said, yeah, I know. And I thought to have a relationship with Carl Icahn.
That's how rich people keep their money. They always ask for favors. We're not going to pay you. Okay. Because people are like, well, I have the opportunity.
You never know where it could go. So I bring him ideas, and they were good ideas. And the first one I brought him was actually Reader's Digest. I had a feeling something would happen there. It was underpriced. He bought, I don't know, for him, nothing. He bought like $50 million of stock. It immediately went up. I go over to his office like 3 months later, and I said, sell your stock. And he made whatever. For him, nothing, but nonetheless, he likes making money. He made like $50 million.
Oh, only? Just $50 million. That's fine.
Incidentally, at the end of it, he said, I need to thank you. He said, I told you I wasn't going to pay you. I said, yes, you did. He said, but you know what I'd like to do? I'd like to take you and your wife out for dinner. I said, thank you. That's great. So Wendy and I go for dinner with him and his wife, Gail. He only went to 2 restaurants in those days, a Chinese restaurant I forgot the name of, and an Italian restaurant called Il Tonello. It was good food, actually. And Wendy and Gail and I get there early because he tends to work late in the day. And I remember he comes to Il Tonello, and they know him very well. And as he's sitting, I see the waiter sort of glide over and put a martini in his hand, and it's sort of one smooth movement. Martini in the hand, sits in the chair, drinks the martini, puts the empty glass down. That was how dinner started. And we have a very nice dinner. And Carl's a good storyteller, and he's a lot of fun. But about halfway into the dinner, my wife leans over to me and she said, honey, he doesn't know your name. Anyway, Carl then started calling us because I had a team, and he would
Because he doesn't care about your name. You made him a lot of money. He took you out for dinner.
ask us to research ideas that he had. So we would research ideas. And I remember my partner, Carl Sladoff, who's still to this day the president of Take-Two, got really annoyed. Carl speaks his mind because I was asking them to do like research for Carl Icahn. He's like, he is the richest guy on Wall Street and we're doing spec research for him. Oh, and incidentally, he has informed us we will never get paid. Like, what are we doing here? I said, I just don't know, but I feel good about this. So one day Carl calls up and he says, you familiar with this video game company called Take-Two Interactive? And I said, I'm really familiar with it, obviously. It's a really messy company. At this
I used
point,
to own 20% of it.
Take-Two's in very bad shape. It's failing. It's got very bad management. The chairman had been indicted. It was under...
Wait a minute. The guy that he gave a stock tip to gets $50 million. He goes to dinner with him, and then months later says, hey, you know this company of Take-Two? Like, what in the world? Let me back this up for a second.
Incidentally, he has informed us we will never get paid. Like, what are we doing here? I said, I just don't know, but I feel
You're
good
doing
about
favors
this.
for him.
So one day Carl calls up and he says, you familiar with this video game company called Take-Two Interactive? And I said, I'm really familiar with it, obviously. It's a really messy company. At
I
this
used to own
point,
20% of it.
Take-Two's in very bad shape. It's failing. It's got very bad management. The chairman had been indicted. It was under investigation. They hadn't filed financial statements. And it wasn't even that cheap, despite all that. Because
Wait, the chairman is under indictment?
Yes.
Okay, they're being investigated.
Yes.
They canceled their annual meeting.
Correct.
They're not filing financial statements.
Yes.
The company is being investigated by a bunch of different...
Four entities.
Okay, 4 different entities.
Yeah, IRS, SEC, New York DA's office, and FTC.
They have how much in revenue?
About 700 in revenue and losing loads of money and no debt, thankfully, and about 50 in cash. And we looked at the numbers and we're like, they're going to be bankrupt in 6 months. That's what's going to happen here.
Take-Two is going to be bankrupt in 6 months.
And you're like, great.
No, I'm not great. I said, this is a disaster. And so we wrote a whole memo and we said, stay away from it. No, I wish I could sound so forward thinking. So I sent over the memo saying, this is a disaster, stay away from it. By the way, like I've done video games. I have like no interest. And we were doing other stuff that was more tech driven that we were doing really well with. So he calls
What
up
was
like
the market cap of the company back then though?
about 700.
So it went up 7x from when you had to sell because it was 100 million when you had 20%. Okay.
So, it's not great, frankly, in a growth business. And they had increased the revenue materially. They built a business. It was a business, albeit a very bad one. So he calls a month later and he says, listen, I have a friend who's looking.
They are not going to fire this man, Albany, for if it gets delayed again. They're not going to fire this man. This man's going to come out. It doesn't matter if it gets delayed again. It's going to be the biggest piece of entertainment ever. Not video game. It's going to beat its own records.
At buying a big stake in Take-Two. Can you refresh your memo and do this with a friend? At this point, Carl Sladoff like loses his mind. He said, all right, so it was bad before when we were doing free work for Carl Icahn. Now he's pimping us out to his Wall Street buddies for free. Like, this is outlandish. And I said, you just never know where this can go. Like, you never know. So we do the memo, which essentially says, once again, it's a mess, stay away. Again, not being so forward thinking. I don't know how much time goes by. Carl calls me and he says, listen, this thing Take-Two, you ever look at this? I was like, yes, I looked at it for you. And then I looked at it for your buddy and I said, don't do it. He said, yeah, that thing Take-Two, it's really interesting. He said, have you read the bylaws? I said, no, Carl, not read the bylaws. He said, well, you know what you ought to do? Read the bylaws. And he hung up. So
he just gave him. This guy, Carl, sounds like a complete douchebag, right? Because one, he doesn't even know his name. Okay. But he literally gave him a favor because he gave him, okay, the deal to make $50 million off the stock. He's now doing him a favor because he knows the bylaws and said, you should take a look at the bylaws. This is incredible.
So Ben read the bylaws and he comes in the next day and says, holy shit, this company has a plain vanilla, unamended Delaware charter. And in this charter, the right exists that if you have 50.1% of the shares vote to fire the board, you can take over the company. And because the company was so troubled, the stock had collapsed into about 20 hedge funds' hands. So this was actually mathematically possible. The problem is you can't go run around and solicit people to vote their stock without creating a group, most likely.
You could go to some, you can't go to all. There's a loophole where you can go to some to try to get them, but you can't go more because then it's like you're, as he just said, soliciting.
And this is arcane stuff, but and we didn't have any money, so we couldn't buy stock. So it's not like we could go in the market. And we didn't have the money even to mount a proxy fight, which would be the standard way of going about it. In those days, a proxy fight would cost $3 million. We didn't have that, particularly because it was totally spec. But under SEC rules, you could solicit up to 10 shareholders. And about 70% of the stock was in the hands of 10 shareholders. I mean, without triggering any kind of filing requirement.
And there was 22?
So we put together a deck of what we would do to fix the company. And we go meet the 10 shareholders who are happy to meet with us because we're talking about a position they have in a troubled company.
Sure.
And we start getting commitments of who's going to, sign the sign the written consent that would give us the company. That's all you have to do, sign a consent. So we go through this whole process. We've now gotten all 10 that we can get to. We can't go to number 11 through 20 legally.
Right.
Oh, you can't publicize.
Because you can't go to the majority. You have to, you can go to under.
That's it either. You can't market this at all. So it's all done quite quietly. And Ben comes into my office. He said, we got 48%. I was like, okay, it's game over. We're done.
What happens, guys? I mean, obviously we know what happens.
And he said, well, let me just think about it. Ben's a very smart guy. He goes home the next day, comes in. Turns out there's another provision in the agreement, in the bylaws. If you show up at the annual meeting and you don't have to put an item on the agenda in advance, which is unheard of. You can just raise your hand at the meeting and say, I want to vote. And if a majority of the shareholders vote in favor of your slate, you can take over the company at the meeting.
All right, hold on a second. So he doesn't have anything to do with the business. Met with 10 of the guys. They got 48%. They don't have enough. They need 51%. So now he's going to show up at the meeting and then just say, yeah, I would like to take over the business and put his plan out. And he just has to get one extra person.
Which is unheard of. Just unheard of. It doesn't exist, but it did exist here. But it's not 51% of the people who show at the meeting. It's 51% of the
total
votes in the meeting. But you have to be there physically. You cannot vote by proxy because remember, we didn't file a proxy. And we can't solicit anyone. But what we did do is go back to those 10 people and say, look, do you want to form a group with us now so we can actually talk and reach an agreement, show up at the annual meeting, vote for us. And we think we can win that way, even though we only had 48% because we knew not.
See, there's always loopholes. There's always ways to go around what the rules are.
Not 100% of the shares would show at the meeting. So that's what we plan to do. And we get a lot of support, we think, until it's very close to they had scheduled a meeting. We form a group. We now announce it. We indicate to the company that we're doing this weeks before the meeting. The company, not a professionally managed company, to say the least, not a good board, to say the least. They really didn't even know what to make of this. They'd never seen it before. They didn't understand it. They had bad counsel. They just no idea what to do. So we're like, we have 48%. We think that's pretty good. If 75% of the shares are at the meeting, we're probably good. Until we find out that these hedge funds had loaned out their stock to short sellers, as one does. And if you do that,
yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me rewind.
Out that these hedge funds had loaned out their stock to short sellers, as one does.
Yep.
And if you do that, you can't vote the shares. And we can't solicit anyone. Remember, we've solicited our 10.
So these people took their shares, shorted their shares, gave it off to somebody, but now they're not allowed to vote. And because they're not allowed to vote, the people that can vote have more stake now.
I said to Ben, so what percent do we have? He said, you're not going to like this, 22%. And I was like, So we don't have to disclose that. We had our prior disclosure about the group, which was at 48%. And we go to the meeting, physically go to the meeting. And at this point, there's been a journal article because no one.
So they know they have 60, they know they have 70% then.
Seen this before, and there's like television cameras.
They know they have 48% of the people. And then the people that shorted, they know they have 20.
Front. And we're at the meeting, walking into the meeting in a hotel. And we hired the 2 top proxy solicitors just to protect us. And we'd been smart about the people we hired. And we spent a lot of money for us on fees because we had to. We go to the meeting, and before it starts, a guy waves across the room. And I go over and say, super friendly. He said, hey, I haven't seen you since law school. It's great. I went to law school. He said, it's great to see you. This is so.
Chat. Do you know what's about to happen, right? You know what's about to happen. The guy that just waved that he went to law school with. We just talked about this in the beginning, right? You don't go to college to learn stuff. You go to college for networking because you never know what it's going to, like where it's going to happen or help you out. Here it is. Here it is. The foreshadowing of what we talked about earlier is now happening right here. The guy that he knew at college happens to be on the board, right? Is that what's going to happen?
We had to. We go to the meeting, and before it starts, a guy waves across the room. And I go over and say, super friendly. He said, hey, I haven't seen you since law school. It's great. I went to law school. He said, it's great to see you. This is so interesting. How are you doing? How's your family? And we talked for like 5 minutes. I go back and I said to my proxy solicitors, who is that guy? And they said, he's Fidelity. Now, Fidelity was a larger shareholder, but they had declined.
Do you see how this works? Do you see how it works?
To participate in our group. So we had no idea where they would vote. And Fidelity doesn't typically support anything hostile. They typically support management. So I looked at my solicitors and I said, we just won. So the company had a new general counsel. We had a room in the hotel. The company had a room in the hotel. Oh, incidentally, the CEO of the company declined to attend the meeting. That gives you a sense of what we were dealing with here.
They didn't give a shit. They didn't give a shit about the thing.
This is the Thursday, by the way. And the general counsel comes into the meeting room that we're in, and he says, well, we don't have the final vote, but we have a provisional vote. You have 88%. He said, so will you accept that, or do you want us to keep counting? I said, we'll accept that. And the next
right, because they already got the other guys.
morning, Friday morning, I walked into the company and walked into the corner office and became chairman of the company.
That was what year?
That was 07.
And you're
Holy Christ, dude. That's crazy. So with no money and from a tip from a person that he helped get stocks from, came in, took a hostile takeover of a company with no money because he knew a guy that went to law school with him 15, 20 years prior.
still running it.
I'm chairman, now I'm CEO. Ben was the CEO from 7 to 11, then he decided to leave and I became the CEO.
So this is what you described as basically a hostile takeover with no capital.
Yeah.
Deal is how the best founders turn the world into their talent pool. I've been studying how history's greatest founders operate for a decade, and one thing they all have in common is they understand that recruiting and hiring the.
So he became the head. All right, let's go forward here.
So now you come in. You went from writing this memo to Carl Icahn, like, stay away from this, to we just took over the company. What was your plan?
The plan was there was only one good property, which was GTA, which was in development and was soon to be released, we thought, ended up getting delayed. And everything else was total mess except the NBA franchise, which was really tiny. It was making a tiny amount of money. Everything else was losing money. So our plan was...
I'm sorry. everything was losing money. Grand Theft Auto was delayed, and NBA was a small little franchise.
GTA, which was in development and was soon to be released, we thought, ended up getting delayed. And everything else was a total mess except the NBA franchise, which was really tiny. It was making a tiny amount of money. Everything else was losing money. So our plan was meaningfully to cut costs, run a rational company, be friendly to creative talent, diversify the product pipeline, and build an entertainment company.
Did I hear correctly that you cut something like 40 to 50 million?
Yeah, we cut about 40 million.
Explain how you did this.
Well, we have an
The
approach
costs.
to, when you're doing turnarounds, you have to cut costs, but our approach is a little different, which is we don't want to show up and fire people. It's a great way to build ill will. Also, you don't know anything when you show up. And so you might fire the wrong people. And
I like what he's saying. And again, I'm making the comparison to Asha Sharma showing up, right? You don't know anything. And you really don't want to fire people, right? You want to get to know people. So you go around starting to ask questions and, get to know people, right? You can see what's happening a little bit what she's doing, right? She's doing all the right things. There will be a time that people have to get fired, though.
also, who knows? Maybe you need everyone. Like, you just don't know. But badly run companies, we have a rule. We only do turnarounds if we're the first team in. Like, if someone tried and failed, we don't do it. You know why? We're not so smart. Smart people all do the same things. So if someone came in before us to do a turnaround and they failed, guess what? They probably did all the stuff that we would end up doing. They still failed. That's not for us. But we were the first team in. If you're the first team in, the first thing we look at is third-party expenses. Every company, particularly big companies, has deals with third parties. I don't know. This was the days where you put discs and cartridges into box.
Looking at you, Sony. A lot of third-party deals.
So we had a printing deal, we had a cardboard deal, we had a pressing deal for our discs. And we do a top 10 vendor survey. So all the top 10 vendors and how much we spend with all of them. Then we call them all up and negotiate them down. And the reason we do that is, number one, you immediately save money. Number two, you don't scare or upset the team. Number three, you begin to create credibility with the team because the team's like, wow, they just saved all this money and no one got fired. Like, that's pretty good. We also don't do things like put in new expense policies. Like, that is a great way to alienate everyone. Or let's say, David, let me see your expense report. Why did you have lunch, at McDonald's on Tuesday with, Mike? Like, why? Like, that's a great way to alienate David. And if David has another option, he's gonna leave the next day. So we don't do that either. But our top 10 vendor approach saves a lot of money. And then, about 3 to 6 months in, when we know, what's going on, then we have to right-size the overhead. In most instances, of course, you have to cut some headcount.
Yeah, especially at a company like this. How much money was GTA making back then?
When GTA released, the company would have a meaningful profit, like 100 or so a year, but it only released every 4 years. So they lost money the rest of the time.
Okay, so what was your...
All right, well, there you go. All right, so it made money, but then lost money every year after that. And that was Grand Theft Auto 4.
plan for that?
Make other hit titles.
This just goes back to your insight from, because I don't even know if we were explicit about this enough, but you wanted, when you were like a kid, you're like, I want to run a movie studio, right?
Yeah.
And then 20 years into your career, like, no, I want to run a movie studio in 1926, not 1987 or whatever.
Right,
it was.
exactly, and here we
so
are.
then you took that idea and you're like, we're going to build a movie studio.
And
it's going
how
to
are we
be
going to do it? We're going to try to be the most creative, the most innovative, and the most efficient company in the business, which was the same rubric I used at every entertainment company I ever ran. When I told that story, because Take-Two was public, I had to tell the story. I remember investors saying, how does that plan differ from your plan when you were at Fox? I said, it doesn't. It's the same plan. It's the entertainment business. And we have found that that rubric, which we use to this day, if you're honest and if you're true to the rubric, if your decision-making supports the rubric, tends to work.
You take over the company, the market cap's 700 million, whatever.
Ish.
Today it's 30 billion, whatever.
35-ish.
That's an insane run.
35 billion.
By the way, that's absolutely incredible.
Thank you. Great team.
So can you explain the ideas that you're putting into place? Like, was anybody even thinking about taking ideas from building movie studios in the 1920s to video games in the early 2000s?
That isn't what people thought. What people thought about there was making a great video game. That's what they had to think about.
No, I meant you.
Was I thinking?
No, yeah, like any other people doing.
Oh, doing what I was doing?
Yeah,
Look,
you were applying this idea.
No, but I mean, I'm not sure that idea informed what we did day to day. And there were some great executives who built great companies, EA and Activision, among others. And certainly, I don't feel like I had any kind of monopoly on figuring this out. And it took us a long time to turn the company around. And we had some.
I would like to see us sit down with Bobby Kotick and listen to that guy, the stories that he would say. Completely different feel than what Strauss Zelnick is saying.
Meaningful missteps, and we have not created more value than anyone else in the business. I would argue that, for pure play, probably Bobby Kotick has with Activision.
So what were these missteps?
They're daily. I'm probably making one right now.
No, but what were the big ones back at the very beginning? You were much more precarious position back then.
Oh, no, in the beginning we didn't make too many mistakes. How could you? Like when you're on the floor, there's nowhere to fall. This is a terrible company, terribly run. Every decision they made was horrible. No, it was very easy to make sound decisions.
Yeah, this is something I thought was interesting. I heard you say where, your pitch to talent was, well, one, I think anybody that's successful has some form of ego. But you're willing to like put yours aside. And you've said some stuff where like in the entertainment business, the only people that matter, or you're like, I don't matter. It's the people that make the hits that matter.
Yeah.
Which is like a very interesting thing to say. And
What's
then,
the added benefit of being true?
Yeah.
You can replace people like me.
Yeah, you can't replace the hitmaker. So, but what's fascinating to me is your pitch to them is just like, I'm just going to run a rational organization. I want you, you've used the word rational organization, I think, at least once in this conversation. I've heard you say it before.
It's true. You can replace him, but the people that are making the thing are really more important, but he's in charge of it all. So he gets all the credit and also all the blame.
Usually. But the pitch is, we're just not going to do any crazy shit.
Yeah.
Over a long period of time, that is an edge. Can you talk about that?
That was a sort of a nice to have. The must have was, we are going to give you the resources, creative and financial, to pursue your passion. We're not going to interfere creatively. We want you to make the best video games on earth. That was the pitch. And we mean it. And we will support you through thick and thin to do so, more than any other company. Oh, and by the way, then we'll run a rational business organization. No one's going to scream at you. You're not going to find out that someone's getting indicted. We're not going to get sideways with the FTC. And, it'll be like a real grown-up company. And then over time, I couldn't promise this right away, but I had to promise it. I said, we'll also have a solid balance sheet so that when we fail, inevitably you fail in the entertainment business, we can live to play another day. That took us a few years.
Right. And the fact is, in the entertainment business, this is why I always bring up the, make 10 films, 7 lose money, 3 make money, 1 makes up a lot of money. That's what he's saying. You will have a failure, right? You will have a failure, but as long as you have a lot of the money up front, then you're safe. You're safe. You're okay to have a failure as long as you have other ones that are making the money, and you're doing, business mindset here where you're actually saving and investing in other things.
Because these super talented people also tend to be like highly disagreeable, somewhat erratic, and I just find it interesting that you kind of balance their, you say you're not talented, which obviously your talents are different. You're very talented, but I think you mean like a creative way, like you're not the one that can create the video games.
Not in the least.
How do you deal with these very disagreeable, And
I think that's where people say he has no experience in video games. Like he didn't make it, he doesn't play it, but he does have video game. He has experience running a video game company, okay, back in the day. And people look at it and go, well, he didn't make a game, so he doesn't know.
Talented geniuses.
I love them. I'm serious.
Okay, so what do you got to say more about that?
I mean,
I got to hear that question. Hold on.
Which obviously your talents are different. You're very talented, but I think you mean like a creative way, like you're not the one that can create the video games.
Not in the least.
How do you deal with these very disagreeable, talented geniuses?
I love them. I'm serious.
Okay, so what do you got to say?
Him saying that right there. Hold on, let me rewind that.
Disagreeable, talented geniuses.
I love them. I'm serious.
His facial expression there, right? When he says, I love them, you can see it that he actually means what he's saying. He's not saying some bullshit where he's just like, yeah, I love them. No, you can see it like he's saying, like, I love them. We could disagree, but I love them because they're good at what they do.
Okay, so what do you got to say more about that?
I mean, you have to sincerely care about other people to be an effective leader. I sincerely care about my colleagues, genuinely. And I don't love every attribute of every one of them, and I don't love every conversation we have.
Right.
But they don't love every attribute of me. I just did a 360. I found that out. Not that it came as a surprise. But we care about one another. And I want the best for them and for the organization. And
right, because if you're all working together, then you're all succeeding or failing.
I treat everyone with respect, and I demand that everyone do the same thing.
Isn't this nice, guys? I said it in the very beginning, right? Give me examples when I worked for a company, I was higher up in management, right? People just want respect. And if you give respect, they give you respect. And then everyone's just better off, because I know for a fact, I don't know any of you personally, okay, but I'm pretty sure. No, you know what? I'm guaranteed that at your company, that you talk shit about your managers or your owners, right? Because they don't even know your name, or they don't give two shits about you, right? And that's happening everywhere, right? I don't care if you work at a school and one person doesn't do more than you, right? You start to make different divisions, right? I'm not talking about diversity here. I'm talking about just divisions of, I don't like this person because they do this, right? This is why some companies, well, not some companies, rule number 1 at a company is never talk about your salary. Okay, never talk about your salary, because jealousy kicks in, right? I've been here longer. This person's making more money than me. But if you have a person that just respects what you do, right? And you respect them, it's a whole different ballgame. When you start not respecting the people that you work with, regardless of what position they're in, that's when it starts to break down.
No yelling at the company. There's no bad behavior. If you engage in bad behavior, you got to leave. So one of our competitors at one point had 500 sexual harassment claims at
That would be Activision.
their company.
From one guy?
No. Unfortunately, it was broadly distributed. And we don't have. We've had obviously a few things here and there, but we don't have claims like that.
They've had some claims as well.
We treat people with respect. People can come as they are. We don't care about your ethnic background, your religious background, your orientation, your lifestyle, the color of your hair. Just do great work, seek excellence, and be kind to
imagine
others.
that.
And by the way, I've had plenty of hard
Based on what you do, not what you look like.
conversations, like super hard conversations. And, you said it earlier, like, and I think I learned this with Barry Diller. I just don't take it personally. It's not personal. Like, we have a business. I never say the word that executives use. Like, we're a big family here. We're not a big family here. This is an enterprise.
That's right.
My family's at home. So we don't have all the angst around being a family. However, we are an enterprise that treats people with respect.
There you go.
And if someone is offsides with me and they misbehave, like, I don't see myself as so important that you can't do that. I don't feel the need to like teach everyone all the time. I had to learn the hard way. Like, the delete key is there for a reason. I had one creative person who isn't with us any longer because it did get to be too much, and the value delivered wasn't worth it,
I wonder if that's Dan Hauser.
to say the least. But he used to send the most outlandish and unpleasant emails. And I remember saying to someone, I don't know, like a board member, I said, this is really tough because
Does Randy Pitchford still work for them? Does he still work for them? Because he says some outlandish things. I wonder what his emails would say.
lack of decorum is so outlandish that at some point he's going to do or say something where I just have no choice but to fire him. And then I realized, wait a second, I always have a choice. You know what the choice is? Delete.
Right now.
I just started deleting his emails. I would see the first.
Oh, I thought you meant delete him as a person.
No, delete.
Yeah, not in Minecraft. Settle down. He's not murdering people. He's not Bobby Kotick. I'm joking about that, Bobby. I'm joking.
His emails. I was like, how can I be offended if I delete them? I just deleted them.
Without reading them.
Absolutely. If I read them, they'd upset me. Eventually, he had to go because it was just too bad. But I put up with it for a long time.
I don't know. I find this very interesting that like just doing, like being completely rational over a long period of time can actually give you an edge in business.
Right, but did you see it though? Did you see it?
Well, in the entertainment business, particularly.
I think this is something Munger and Buffett, like,
Hold on, let me rewind here for a second.
I don't know. I find this very interesting that like just doing, like being completely rational over a long period of time can actually give you an edge in business.
Well, in the entertainment business,
Yeah,
particularly.
I think this is something Munger and Buffett, like you mentioned Buffett earlier, I'm obsessed with them. And that was Munger's whole thing. It's just like, we're just able to be rational over long periods of time.
Yeah. We don't engage in magical thinking, which is hard not to do in the entertainment business. Magical thinking is because I want it, it's going to happen, right? Magical thinking is, I don't know, someone's going to see this podcast and they're going to call me up and say, we need to give you $10 billion to do X. Like, that's magical thinking.
That's very likely going to happen.
Okay, let me know. I'll give you a call. I'll give you 10%. That's magical.
That's better
thinking.
what Brad Jacobs gave me. Brad Jacobs.
I'll tell you what. That probably might happen. I don't know about what he's exactly saying there, but someone seeing him here be like, "Did you see that interview with Strauss Zelnick? Good vibes." You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Because episode 3, we all go to his house. This guy's laughing. He's like, I love David. He goes, I raised $750 million out of his audience and I had to pay him a fee. And he like slapped his knee. And I was like, that's not funny.
But I got dinner with Carl Icahn.
There you go. You got dinner and then you found out he didn't even know your name. And then he put you to work.
So the starting point is not like we run a rational organization. The starting point is we will support your creative activities through thick and thin. And that gets tested. And when it gets tested, the worst.
That's very true, Winzo. Right? Winzo says, see, now this is how us gamers would start respecting companies, where even though he's a big shot, we respect companies more. Right. Even though, look, the company's a company, they don't give two shits about you as a person. Now, as a customer, okay, if they show you to give you the best value or whatever for your deal. Now, obviously, if the game comes out at $100, hey, you're not going to, there's no goodwill, right? Listening to him talk, you're like, I respect that guy, right? He's not an asshole like I thought he was, that people make him out to be or whatever, right? Now, obviously, I get it. Interviews are interviews and whatnot, and they always say never meet your the people you look up to, because you'll be disappointed, right? But remember, the corporations, they're corporate salute. The corporate salute is separate from the actual people running the business. The business is an entity itself. It's almost its own monster. Right? Because, again, like you said earlier, he could be replaced and someone else is going to take his spot. And when that person takes his spot, this number still has to go up. It still has to survive. It doesn't matter about the actual person. Look at Phil. Phil Spencer's gone. The company, they're going to forget him just like anything else, right? It's like when you dig a hole in the sand on the beach and the tide rolls in and then just fills it in and covers it up like it was never there, right? That's what it is like to be a head of a studio. People remember you a little bit.
Possible time. And so I like to say, culture, like character, is tested in the breach. You're not tested when things are going well. Great, we just delivered a hit. We're making all this money. This is awesome. Like, have a celebration. That's not a test. The test is when someone comes into your office, and this happened to me, and we had not turned around the company yet. We had very limited capital, and we were developing a game, and it was about to be released 2 months later, which is to say it's done, and we spent a lot of money. And the head
Wait. What is this he's talking about?
And so I like to say, culture, like character, is tested in the breach. You're not tested when things are going well. Great, we just delivered a hit. We're making all this money. This is awesome. Like, have a celebration. That's not a test. The test is when someone comes into your office, and this happened to me, and we had not turned around the company yet. We had very limited capital, and we were developing a game, and it was about to be released 2 months later, which is to say it's done, and we spent a lot of money. And the head of the division came into my office and said, look, we just don't think this is good enough, and we think we screwed up, and the art style is not appropriate, and it's not differentiated, so we want to remake the game. I was like, what does that mean? And this is a long time ago, so it's slightly different. He said, it means $50 million of incremental dev costs, which is a lot of money to us, and another
$50 million and another year. What game is this? He said it was early on. So like 2007, 2008, Take-Two. 50 million art. Is it like a 2007, 2008? What year did Borderlands come out? What year did Borderlands come out? Borderlands 2009, Borderlands 2 2012. So he already owns the company of Take-Two. They're having problems. So is it Borderlands? He said early on, right?
year. And it was on a release schedule, which we'd announced. And I was like, I dug in. I mean, I don't give like knee-jerk answers. I dug in and did my homework. And at the end of it, I supported the decision. And that title became Borderlands. Had we not...
There you go. Yeah, Borderlands. Borderlands had an additional $50 million. $50 million.
Done that, Borderlands wouldn't have been a hit.
Yeah, that's a huge game now.
And that was a non-obvious decision. And I'm pretty much can assure you, no one else in the business would have done it.
Why?
Holy shit.
Which we'd announced. And I was like, I dug in. I mean, I don't give like knee-jerk answers. I dug in and did my homework. And at the end of it, I supported the decision. And that title became Borderlands. Had we not done that, Borderlands wouldn't have been a hit.
Yeah, that's a huge game now.
And that was a non-obvious decision. And
I guess that was a good $50 million investment, huh?
I'm pretty much can assure you, no one else in the business would have done it.
Why?
Because it was insane. They would have said the game is done.
Yeah.
Put out the game. Move on to the next thing. I'm not spending $50 million to remake the goddamn thing in another art style. And I have no evidence that one will work either.
So Borderlands was just a normal game. It didn't have the art style. It didn't have what we know Borderlands is today for what it looks like. They had to take another year. It was coming out in 2 months. They needed an additional year and $50 million to change the art style. Holy Christ.
So you just trusted the intuition of the talent?
I had to. That's the story. Be the most creative, be the most innovative, be the most efficient. I hired the most creative people. I said, you have to pursue your passions. We will support you. They came and said, this is our assessment. This is our passion. Are you
So was that Randy that came in and said, I need another $50 million so I can redo the game?
going to support us? And I said, yes.
The timeline's slipping because you're sitting on the most valuable media property in the world. And everybody online is just like, when's GTA 6 coming out?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with the timelines? It's just like the answer to that question is, I don't know, right?
Well, no. November 19th, I do now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's been announced.
Well, there you go, chat. It's official. Until it's not. November 19th. The big wig himself said, no. That's when it's coming out.
When's GTA 6 coming out?
Yeah.
Like, How do you deal with this? How do you deal with the timelines? It's just like the answer to that question is, I don't know, right?
Well, no. November 19th, I do know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No.
He actually, do you see that? That's right. He's like, that's payday, baby. Yeah, you see his face? Hold on, let me rewind a little bit more. How do you know? He's like,
Do know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No.
okay. He's like, I do know. Yeah, right there. That's it right there. That's payday, baby.
No, it's been announced.
But this has been pushed back
I think twice.
for like how many years?
I think we're about 18 months behind the original date.
Okay.
Not much.
So there you go. That's another confirmation. They are 18 months. He doesn't know. 18 months behind the original release date.
Much more than that.
Is it the most successful video game of all time?
I think so. But it depends on how you count. I think if you counted...
Just revenue.
I think if you counted every, like Mario Kart and Call of Duty and a bunch of others, it's not entirely clear. But I think in terms of the value of the IP, most people believe it's the most valuable entertainment IP ever created. But people could argue about that.
And you don't disclose the revenue for GTA 5, correct?
Not the total revenue. It's a lot.
Yeah, hold on. Let me. It's a lot. Screenshot that. It's a lot.
People could argue about that.
And you don't disclose the revenue for GTA 5, correct?
Not the total revenue. It's a lot. The reason people...
Hold on a second. There's another. He looked at the camera. He looked at the camera. That's a mic drop right there, right? CEO's like, it's a lot of money. Oh man, that's a definite flex. Look at him. He's like, yeah, it's a lot of money. I made a lot of money. Yeah, look. Yeah, I'm making a lot of money. He even tapped his foot. Look at his leg. He's like, yep.
The reason people keep playing is because it's constantly updated and it's really great. And the most recent content pack was awesome.
And honestly, like the social element to like catch
You
up.
can actually talk and
Exactly.
connect and play together. And yeah, it's amazing that people don't realize that, online games are highly social experiences.
Yeah, especially when you see this with like kids now with like Roblox and everything else. Like
It's
it's such
everything.
a-
And my mom is 90. She plays bridge online. And
with
she's
Buffett?
Sorry?
With Buffett? Warren
I
Buffett?
never asked her. Somehow I doubt that. She's good though, and she has bridge friends who she's never met in person, and she gets around. She's mobile, but doesn't get around the way she used to. And so this is an enhancement of her life. It's a social life, and it's something she's good at and loves doing. And she's 90, so this is an industry that speaks to little kids and people.
Gaming is enduring. I mean, we played that since the dawn of humanity. They figured out games to play with each other. There's something you said earlier that I want to pull out from your book. You said, I don't believe in magical thinking. And I don't think visualization
Bridge in GTA 6. He threw it in there for his mom.
is magical thinking. But you do talk about in your book being very, very particular. The note I left myself when I got to this section of the book is that the universe rewards the specific ask and punishes the vague wish. And your point was
And that does sound a little magical, but you have to dig into
that was my note
Yeah.
based on like my interpretation of what you're saying. And you're talking about this idea of like creative visualization, which again, like people think it's like some willy foo-foo thing. I've read 415 now biographies of history sketch entrepreneurs. I've kept every single note, every single highlight, every single transcript of anything I've done for that project I've been doing for a decade in this giant searchable database. Visualization comes up all the time. And these are not willy foo-foo people.
Well, think about this for a second. I know you're joking because the water bear is so excited, so is Krebsy and stuff, right? He says also I would reach out to Zelnick to see if he would also delay GTA 6 for a year just to torture water. Think about this for a second, right? The story that he told about Borderlands, that we didn't know was Borderlands until he said Borderlands, where they came to him and said, we need to scrap the art style and redo it for the next year. We need $50 million, right? And then think about Grand Theft Auto. Now, Grand Theft Auto is 18 months behind by his own words. So it makes you wonder, if they would do $50 million for Borderlands way back when in 2009, how much are they willing to postpone Grand Theft Auto? Because maybe something was wrong, hence why they had to delay it for 18 months, okay? That they're like, yeah, we have to scrap this whole thing. He's like, yeah, sure, like, who knows, like 15 years from now, we see another interview with him talking about a situation where he's like, yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6, we were delayed And we threw another $150 million, $200 million at it to fix it. And looking back at it, it was a great reason to do it. You know what I mean? It's interesting. I mean, $50 million for Borderlands for a game, remember, for a game that didn't have any kind of fan base. It was a brand new IP. It wasn't known, didn't sell anything yet. And he said, all right, $50 million, 1 year delay. Okay. Imagine what they would do to make sure that Grand Theft Auto is good. I don't know. I think it's a huge thing.
No.
And I love what you said about why it might be effective. You said, I'm pretty sure it works because the method requires one to concentrate hard, exclusively, and frequently on what one wants. Can you say a little bit about that?
Sure. I mean, I think having not done as much research as you, but having read a billion biographies, I was very focused growing up on success, to traditional success, but also political success. And I tried to sort of drill it down to like, what is the factor that is most common among highly successful people? And the only thing I could come up with was they knew what they wanted. And it's not because you know what you want, like Napoleon Hill, write it on your mirror, like, I want $1 million on Thursday. It's because I wanted to build a diversified collection of media, communications, and entertainment assets supercharged by technology, starting in 2001. And I've been laser focused on it ever since, which means I make choices that are in service of that. So here's magical thinking is...
Right, Winzo, right? He believes in the product, not just the possible money. Right. And that IP was unproven. Nothing was proven with that IP. GTA 6 is a proven IP. So now you know why it's taken so long. Because one, they're making so much money off of Grand Theft Auto 5. And two, they want to make sure that if they're going to pass the torch from Grand Theft Auto 5 to Grand Theft Auto 6, that it's going to be the best fucking piece of thing that they can make.
I want to do that, but you know what? It's a very nice day out there. I'm going to the beach today, tomorrow, and the next day. You just told me, like, you're a reasonably successful guy, I think. You just told me you work 7 days a week. I have, 3 jobs. I work really hard. Why? Because I have a set of goals.
What he's saying right now is the difference between someone that sits there and goes, well, how come it's not me? How come I'm not, right? They think because they work 7 days for like 5 months that they should get paid off. There's people putting years, right? Think about this for the gym, right? You want to lose weight or you want to build up muscle, okay? You working out for 3 months, you might see some stuff, but if you back off, that's it, right? You got to maintain. You got to keep it going, right? Hard work doesn't end because you're like, I'm just tired and I'm just kind of done. No, that person, right? I'm doing an analogy to another analogy. Think of a race. You ever see those races during the Olympics or whatever, where people are so far ahead, they think they worked so hard and they've got it. They got the win, but they fucking slow down right at the end. And then the guy behind them passes him at the last second and wins the race. Okay? That person put in much more work than you when it needed to be. Okay? So it's like you got to put the work in. Again, I'll go back to myself with YouTube, right? I'm not jealous of anybody that's more successful than me on YouTube because they put the work in, right? Look at Wizard right now. Fake Wizard is everywhere, okay? He is doing so many things while doing a real job, okay? Making podcast after podcast, showing up on other people's podcasts, making every video like every other day, right? He's got 3 channels. He is full steam ahead, pushing towards what he wants to do on his YouTube journey, okay? That's why you see him everywhere, because he's doing the work. Where other people are like, I don't understand. Not me, right? I put in 2.5 hours a day for 4 days a week, right? The amount of time that I put in for the week, some people do in 3 days, right? They're on it for 10 hours a day. They're live streaming. They're uploading. They're doing shorts. They're doing all this other stuff. And constantly doing it. And it starts to build up, okay? Ours is building up, but much slower because I'm not putting 10 hours a day in. I'm putting 10 hours a week in.
And I'm focused on achieving those goals. Now, there's still no guarantee. But by knowing what you want and working in service of what you want, you are much more likely to get what you want than if you don't know what you want or work in service of that thing. That's the truth. And when I started ZMC, I thought, I want to build, a $20 billion company that looks like this. And it was out of the blue. And it wasn't like I ran around and was talking to people as I was endlessly and vainly trying to raise capital or find companies that they were saying, this is awesome, you're doing great, like you are, who's better than you? People are like, this is a crazy idea, this is crazy. But I looked at it and said, I don't think it's so crazy, I think it's possible. And even if I fall short, I'll probably get closer than if I don't try. And I was okay with that.
That statement's 100% true. Because if you don't try, you're not making anything. So obviously trying, you're going to get closer to what your thing is. If I want to be a millionaire and I only made $250,000, I'm much closer to that $1 million than if I didn't do it at all.
And I've said this, and I said it publicly, like it took us, I think after 10 years I was speaking at MIT. I remember I wanted to build a $20 billion company, and one of the students said, how big's your company now? And I said, well, if you take everything together, I don't know, it's about $1 billion company. And he said, are you deeply disappointed?
No. A corporation you would be. Personally, I don't think you would be.
And I said, well, I really appreciated the question. I said, look, it isn't what I set out to do yet, but you know what? It's directionally correct, and I'm not stopping. And if this is as good as it gets, at least I tried. And you know, we made a little progress. We did okay. Well, today our company taken as a whole, and it depends on our market cap, we call it a $40 billion company. We've kind of exceeded our goals, and we're not done yet.
That's double what he wanted to do.
But we wouldn't have done that if we didn't know what we were trying to achieve. So today, Take-Two has this, and I advocate this for every enterprise. The mission of Take-Two is to be the #1 entertainment company on earth. That's a pretty bold idea, but everyone understands it. The strategy to get there is be the most creative, be the most innovative, be the most efficient. Remember, I said that earlier. And the culture in which we work is one of seeking excellence, working together as a team, and being kind. Remember that from before. There are 14,000 people at Take-Two. There's not one person who
14,000 people.
And being kind. Remember that from before. There are 14,000 people at Take-Two. There's not one person who...
That's got to be stressful, man. I've ran a company with 120 employees. Okay. To be responsible for 14,000 people's livelihood, that's crazy.
And being kind. Remember that from before. There are 14,000 people at Take-Two. There's not one person who can't tell you that. It's simple, it's straightforward, it has the added benefit of being true.
This is why I asked you before we started recording, like, if you mind if I do an episode on your book for my other podcast. Again, I want to read this because I think it's really important. And, you know, people have asked me before, it's like, what's the most important thing you've learned from this crazy, like, decade-long study of history, success, and careers you've done? I was like, if I had to put it into one word, it'd be focus. It's like, they are just unbelievably, almost like a different species in terms of how they can focus. I want to read that part I just read. It says, I'm pretty sure it works because the method requires one to concentrate hard, exclusively, and frequently on what one wants. And then you end this chapter with another great sentence. The most important thing you can do to achieve the success you desire is to discover your ambition, narrow its scope with as great a degree of specificity as possible, and blazon it on your consciousness and revisit it daily.
And that is visualization. It's just not like magical visualization. I was on the phone with a Zoom call with one of my colleagues, because I'm reachable by everyone. If people email me or text me or Slack me, I respond. And I'd been doing a town hall in our office in Austin, and this woman Slacked me afterwards, a brand new colleague, and said, can I have a chat with you about my career? And I said, sure. And we were chatting, and she was really impressive. I was quite taken with her. At the end of the call, she said, what should I do to succeed around here? I said, well, you need to know what you want. And then you need to show up on Monday and think about how you're going to create more value than you cost. And then on Friday, think about, did I create more value than I cost? Because if you're here for a year and you get paid $100 plus $25 in benefits, and you generated $10 in value for this enterprise, one of two things will happen. Either you're going to lose your job or this company will fail.
Damn. Now take Steam into account. Each person's worth $1 million, and they're bringing in 10 times that up there. Think about what he just said, and think about that to go back to what Steam, each employee's worth. They have 360 employees, and they're like a $16 billion company. Hey, everybody there is worth their value that they bring to the company. Let me rewind this again for what he just said.
With her. At the end of the call, she said, what should I do to succeed around here? I said, well, you need to know what you want. And then you need to show up on Monday and think about how you're going to create more value than you cost. And then on Friday, think about, did I create more value than I cost? Because if you're here for a year and you get paid $100 plus $25 in benefits, and you generated $10 in value for this enterprise, one of two things will happen. Either you're going to lose your job or this company will fail.
Right.
If you want to succeed and you want the company to succeed, you got to create more value than what you cost. And I said, so think about that, because she'd already decided what she wanted. This was not about, she knew what she wanted. She wants to be CEO, which is great. Terrific. And then I said, and so, and then come to work, don't have political exchanges, put a smile on your face, say yes, you're going to be fine.
Are you surprised? So first of all, I've heard you say this, and you're like this to me, because when we were like at lunch, and I was like, hey, do you have like a team I need to go through to like schedule the podcast? You're like, no, we're gonna do it together. Like, just text me and like you respond. Are you surprised how few people take you up on this? The fact that you will respond to emails or to messages?
No. Here's what surprises me, and this part I don't get. So I spend like 20 to 25% of my time mentoring and coaching people,
Which I want to talk about, yeah.
using the tools in the book. And as you saw in the book, like some of them are exercises, like you have to do the work to get the benefit. And so someone will reach out to me, and while I'm easy to get to, like you still have to do some homework. And I don't schedule, like maybe I don't even schedule, I like have an assistant who schedules me. So there's a bit of a process to have a meeting with me. It's not like, hey, come on in tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And I am amazed, like people will come in with a specific ask for something that would affect their life. And we spend time on it, we talk about it, and maybe I assign them one of the exercises in the book, I usually do. And I would say about half the time, they never follow up. And that to me is kind of astonishing, and I don't.
That's mind-boggling, right? You get the moment that you're looking for, right? But it's not magical just because you had lunch with the guy that you're gonna like get what he has, right? You only make what you do, okay? If you don't take a chance, then you're not going to do anything, right? You have to take the chance. Now, if I had lunch with him, I'm not going to ask him, hey, how's Grand Theft Auto 6? No, I would be picking this man's brain. And it only works afterwards if you take what he says to you to actually go do the things. It's not gonna. He's not gonna just touch you like you're rubbing him like a genie, and all of a sudden it's gonna work for you, right? The fact that you had lunch with him and he gives you an assignment and you're like, yeah, no, I don't need him anymore. He doesn't know any better. That's that is mind-boggling to me.
I think it's because I'm a horrible person or I'm scary or something. I think there are people who believe if I can just get into a room with that really successful person, they can just wave a magic wand.
I would take lunch with the guy. I know you think I'm full of shit by saying that. I would 100% have lunch with him and educate myself and learn stuff from him. Okay? I wouldn't even have to ask a question. I ask one question, let the man speak, and shut up and just listen. Right? Then take $20,000. $20,000 comes and goes. But the knowledge that you could get from a person like this,
then I will have success. Sort of my point earlier. Someone's going to listen.
let me rewind for a second.
I'd say about half the time, they never follow up. And that to me is kind of astonishing. And I don't think it's because I'm a horrible person or I'm scary or something. I think there are people who believe if I can just get into a room with that really successful person, they can just wave a magic wand and I will have success. Sort of my
Right. That's not how that works.
point earlier. Someone's going to listen to the podcast and I'm going to win the lottery. And it doesn't work that way. One of the things I understood about starting ZMC, look, I've been around the block. I don't think I have an enemy in the business. I mean, and you probably know this from your homework. Like I know everyone and I like everyone. And as a result, most people like me. And I think candidly,
I'm sure someone hates you. I'm pretty sure a lot of people hate you.
I have a very good reputation. Nonetheless, I think people confuse, that with somehow like having a shortcut. So I had the attributes I just described. Lots of people wanted to help me when I started ZMC. The conclusion I arrived at was no one can. They would love to. I had all kinds of goodwill. What can they do for me? I had to run out. I had to find the deals. I had to go see Carl Icahn. I had to hire a team. I had to pay the team out of my pocket. I had to, manage the team,
Think of the story you told earlier when you were recruited to 20th Century Fox. I have a maxim that appears in these biographies of history entrepreneurs. It's like opportunity handled well leads to more opportunity.
Right.
Krebs, I know exactly what you're talking about, right? The guy that used to always do, I'm a millionaire, and he would show you the car, and he would do the phone thing. Yeah, Krebs says next 30 he's going to show the bookshelf in his garage, not the Lamborghini. If you know, you know.
You had to handle the opportunity at Vestron. How do I say the company name? Vestron first for this guy to be like, hey, I need some help now.
Right.
And the whole thing is like, that's why he's like, whatever. This is, again, from Buffett and Munger. They say they believe in like Carlyle's prescription, which is like, do the best possible job on the opportunity you have in front of you.
Yeah.
And that will then,
exactly right.
You don't have to worry about the opportunity. It will unlock future opportunities.
Or it may not, but it's the best that you can do.
Here's a great, again, talking about myself, right? We have this small little YouTube channel here, right? And I like interviewing people. I like having conversations with people that I like watching on YouTube, right? I reached out to Kingard. He was my first guest on the show because I liked his editing style. I liked his videos. Right? He was blowing up. I still think he's doing very well on YouTube. And I sent him an email. And he got back to me. Right? Now, I would say we're friends, right? Acquaintances, whatever, right? But because I reached out to him, it's been over 2 years now, right? And we still chat. We still talk to each other. He's welcome on the show anytime. Same, I reached out to Jay Shockblast. Now, we haven't talked since then, but Jay has a much bigger channel than me. Sent him an email, and he got back to me. Greg Owen, right? Then we also had Paul Chato come on the show, right? These are just people I sent emails to because I'm interested in truly what they are. Fake Wizard came on, and since then, now I've been on Fake Wizard's show multiple times, okay? If you don't take chances, then you're never going to succeed in anything you do. You have to take a shot. You have to ask the question. If you don't ask the question, you can't sit here and mope about yourself. Well, I'm never going to make it. Why does that person have the thing that he has, right? You have to take the time to reach out, and then you have to take the time to do the thing. And never did I think to reach out to these people for them to automatically go, well, I was on his show. That's never going to happen. Like, never thought that would happen, right? But now I am. I get invited to other people's shows. Why? Because you had this rapport, and they're like, hey, I like talking to you. Yeah, you're cool. Let's do something else together, right? Because you took a shot.
So what else would you be doing anyways?
You can't do anything better.
But you said earlier when you went on my friend Patrick's podcast, I think you mentioned this book. You're like, how few people, this book is not for sale. You can't buy it, but you give it out. And even that, where, hundreds of thousands of people heard that, and you're like, 50 people asked for it.
Yeah.
That's insane to me.
Wait a minute. You can't buy his book. He just gives it to you. Bro, I'm going to ask for a book.
I think it's tied to what we were talking about earlier. It's like you have this edge that you can just run a rational organization over a long period of time. You also, I think, understand that time carries most of the weight. Think about the compounding you've done over the last 25 years from 750 million to 40 billion, and it's just like, I'm going to apply this rational, I'm in a good business. There's technology tailwinds here, and I'm going to apply this rational organization working with the best people possible. And the score takes care of itself over multiple decades. You said you want to do 20 billion. Well, you've doubled that, and you'll probably keep going on to that.
That's the goal.
Let's go back to the talent and how you serve.
It's because GTA is paying for the book, Eclipse. The shark cards are paying for his book.
The talent, because when I hear the conversation we had, the book I've read, and the interviews I've heard of you, it's like you seem to be like very comfortable, almost like you're in like the service business. Is that a way that you think about this or no?
Yeah, I think a good CEO needs to serve his or her team, and no work gets done in the CEO's office. So what do you really do? You agree on the mission, you set the strategy, you agree on the culture, and then you drive daily execution. But you're driving that daily execution through other people. And how do you do that? You have to motivate them. You have to obviously stay informed, so you know what's happening, and then you have to motivate them. In the very rare occasion that a problem can't get solved below my level, you got to solve the problem. On the rare occasion that a decision about an approach or capital allocation, isn't obvious or is above someone's approval level, it comes to me. I'm not writing memos. I'm not doing Excel spreadsheets.
And are you adapting your style to each individual talent?
Of course.
Okay, so this
is... I'm true to who I am, but of course.
Okay, so
I'm going to rewind that for a second. What was the question?
Someone's approval level, it comes to me. I'm not writing memos. I'm not doing Excel spreadsheets.
And are you adapting your style to each individual talent?
Of course.
Sure.
Okay, so this
is... I'm true to who I am, but of course.
Okay, so we had the same experience where like some of these books are great and the titles are terrible. Like How to Win Friends and Influence People.
It sounds like How to Be the Most Popular Boy in the Class.
It's just like, so many people told me about that book. I didn't read it because like the title's terrible. But you almost saved me the need. I already read the book, but you almost saved me the need to read How to Win Friends and Influence People. And your whole thing is just like, take a sincere interest with an emphasis on the word sincere in other people.
Right.
That's exactly why I do Chatting with 30, which I don't do all the time because I'm trying to find guests that I'm interested in, right? And I'm not interested in because I just want to make content. I'm interested in them because I'm interested in actually how they started, what they're doing.
It's really
That's the story of the book.
That is really a book on sales and leadership.
Yeah, and friendship.
So explain how you apply that inside of your own work.
Well, I just did a 360, and
What's a 360? Is that like a Ask Me Anything type of thing, or is that where you sit in a room and there's all your employees sitting around you and anyone can ask you a question? Is that what a 360 is? I don't know. I'm not in the corporate world.
There was criticism in it, to be clear. But one of the positive attributes, and there were plenty of those too that were noted, was when he sits with you, he really, really cares about you. He sits with anyone at any level in the organization. He responds to everyone. He's kind to everyone. And you think you're the only person in the room when he's talking to you. You ask me, how do you deal with difficult creative personalities? I say, because I love them. I care about them. I genuinely care about them, and I care about my executive team. I care about everyone who works at the business. But frankly, I care. You're going to find this hard to believe. And it sounds, I really don't mean it sounds self-serving. I think it's like table stakes of humanity. I care about the person behind the counter at Starbucks enough to say hello, ask them how their day is going.
That what he just said there, I'm gonna let him finish, but I hate when you say good morning to somebody and they answer, it's like your arm is a reaction, right? You know what I mean? Instead of just taking that moment, right? And you say, good morning, how are you? Don't ask, how are you, unless you actually care what's going to come out of their mouth next, okay? Because if they come out and go, oh, well, I've had a bad day, right? And, right, don't ask if you truly don't care. Don't say the thing unless you truly care. And what he's talking about at Starbucks, like, how are you today? Don't just say it because it's a reflex. Say it because you actually care.
And interact with them a bit if they're not busy,
Yes.
pouring coffee, which sometimes they are, to see if maybe I can brighten their day a little bit.
Exactly.
Like, why wouldn't I? There's a great story in Dale Carnegie's book where he tells a story of, I had an idea. I went into the post office and I wanted to brighten the day.
That's exactly right, El Dente, right? Stop asking how you are because of that. I will stay and listen. And that's the way it should be, right? You shouldn't just be like, hey, good morning. Like I go to this breakfast place every morning, right? I know the entire staff. And every morning they know me. They say, hey, Mike, good morning. Morning. How are you? I'm doing great. It's not just I'm good. How are you? I'm doing great. Other person the other day, she didn't feel like herself. I was like, you all right? She's like, yeah, I'm kind of, like, I just don't feel right. I'm like, oh, what's the problem, right? Because I truly care. Because these are people that I talk to every single day. That's what a community is. That's what we are, right? This is why our chat is the way it is. And when someone comes in that's not our chat because they think we're some sort of like troll or they want to like say something because we're talking about their plastic box that they love, right? They think we're attacking them. But really, we're knowing each other, right? I know lots of you. I've never met 99% of you, but I know that you have kids and I know where you work and I know what games you like, right? Not because I don't give a shit. It's because we actually care.
Of the guy behind the counter. And
Thank you very much for the gifted, Lord. Appreciate that. Very nice of you. Yeah, I think this is a great interview. I'm glad we're watching this.
I'm struggling with what I can say because this is an exercise for me. He gets to the front of the counter and the postman behind the counter apparently had a great head of hair. And so Dale Carnegie says, you have a great head of hair. I wish I had a head of hair like that. And the guy said, oh, thank you, because I'm kind of proud of my hair. And they had a little interchange. And Dale's telling the story to a friend, and the friend
Is that bird in the background? Or is that bird outside my window? There's a bird. Do you hear the bird?
says, well, Dale, what did you get out of that? And he said, what did I get out of it? Are we so small-minded that we need to get something out of every interaction? How about that I improve that person's day and it improved my day? How about that? So if you're taking that position as a starting point, look, if you're taking the position like, I'm here doing this podcast, here's my goal. My goal is to look awesome in your podcast. Well, that's a very bad approach. My goal is when I show up to have an engagement like this, and I've had plenty, how can I be of service to David and to his audience? That's what I'm thinking.
One of my favorite quotes.
The bird is a paid actor. You guys hear it though, right? I don't hear it now. I paused it. Wait a minute. Is it in the video? You hear it. Okay, well, if you hear it, Astrif, that means it's in the video because there's no way in hell you're hearing the bird in my house outside my window.
Ever. It comes from Henry Ford. He says, money comes naturally.
Wait. I think I heard it.
Audience. That's what I'm thinking.
One of my favorite quotes ever. It comes from Henry Ford. He says, money comes naturally as a result of service. And I think part of what we're trying to do here is like this whole show is like essentially a love letter to capitalism. And the reason I
He also said, or it's a pocketful, not clear.
Real quick, I want to go back to what he was saying.
Well, that's a very bad approach.
Being on the podcast just to whatever, right? That's a bad approach, right? And talking about the podcast when I invite people on, there's some people that I've heard in the past. They haven't said this to me personally, right? But I've invited much, much bigger people. that I should have no business talking to because they're much bigger on YouTube than I'll never be there, right? And some of them are like, yeah, hit me up, right? Other people that I've seen talk to they're like, why do I need to go on your podcast when your channel is so much smaller than mine? What does it do for them? And that to me is like, I don't know, just like he just said now, maybe just to have a conversation. Do you know what I mean? Do I need to have 1 million views for you to come on? Isn't that the wrong reason to be on someone's podcast because they have a lot of views? I mean, I get it, but just to have a conversation, I think, is the reason to be on someone's podcast, is it not?
The goal is when I show up to have an engagement like this, and I've had plenty, how can I be of service to David and to his audience? That's what I'm thinking.
One of my favorite quotes ever, it comes from Henry Ford. He says, money comes naturally as a result of service. And I think part of what we're trying to do here is like this whole show is like essentially a love letter to capitalism. And the reason I
He also said, or it's apocryphal, not clear, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. That's attributed to him. It's not clear it was him, but we used that line at ZMC for the first couple of years because it was so hard to do. We did.
It's in your book.
Yeah.
That line is in.
I haven't read the book in a while.
Oh, I read it this past week. But no, to the degree that we do have any kind of influence, it's just like, I'm the son of a Cuban immigrant. I grew up meeting people that literally risked their lives to flee communism. I knew from the time I was probably 9 years old, something's weird about this country I've been born into, something special here. And so what we're trying to do is like, there's also like, corruption and crony capitalism. It's just like, we're trying to celebrate people that like, they build products that make other people's lives better. They build wealth for themselves, their family, their employees. They create jobs. We had John Mackey on this podcast, founder of Whole Foods. One of the stories he told is one of my favorite stories. Just like, because of the fact that we went public early and there was stock options for our employees, like these are grocers. These are normal, just.
See what I'm saying? Like Google, Whole Foods, right? They had like no money. And they're like, yeah, we just want you to be in the company, and we'll give you stock options, and they become fucking multimillionaires.
They just want to live a normal life, and they're able to send their kid to college because of the stock. They're able to buy a home because of the stock. Like, why wouldn't that? John started that with an idea with his girlfriend and 2 other co-founders. Like, these people should be celebrated. And I think the reason I thought that came to mind when we're talking right now is like, but not celebrated because you want to do it for yourself. It's in service of other people.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not saying, and I definitely have my own personal ambitions, including material ambitions.
Of course.
And they were palpable and they were meaningful. And the truth is that I've evolved over time. So when I started out, I didn't read How to Win Friends and Influence People for the first few years. I was at Fox when I read it. And
you dodged the book for a while.
Yeah, I did. I saw it like you. I was like, really? And I think I was the guy who I was insecure, and my approach to a situation was, how am I coming across? How do I look? What do people think about me? What do you think? Let's talk about me. And I could mask it behind sort of a sort of a humble exterior, but frankly, you just can't fake humility. And I was anxious all the time as a result. And I nearly failed at Fox as a result of this. And it was a book that changed my life. I turned it upside down, immediately turned my life upside down.
What was the different position you were taking?
I fail every single day on this podcast.
When you were in your early 30s at Fox? It was like, basically, I'm trying to work through you to accomplish what my ambitions were, as opposed to actually figuring out.
I have the answer. I'm the smartest guy in the room. I got the sharp suit on. I can speak grammatically. I got a couple of Harvard degrees. We're just going to do it my way. I mean, I wasn't like that because I wasn't a shithead, but that was the subtext.
Yeah.
And I shifted that to, how can I be of service to you?
That's huge that you said that, right? So he used to be the asshole, right? But he shifted. He said, why was at Fox. When was he at Fox? Early 90s, right? It was early 90s? Or was it after 95?
How can I be of service? And how can I get to know you?
Have you seen anybody have long-term success that doesn't have a service mindset?
Sure. They're all different styles at work. And one of the things I've learned is it isn't one size fits all. And my approach is not for everyone. And by the way, I'm not the most successful guy on earth, not even close. So this is not by way, and I hope it didn't come across this way, like, this is my approach and everyone should follow my approach. To your point, you've interviewed loads of people and you've read hundreds of books. It's not the same approach. There are some common elements, of course. But Elon Musk's approach to business is diametrically different than mine.
He does not have be kind. It's one of the company values. Well, I just did an episode on with the author of the new book, and one of the things that in that book that he wrote on Elon, in Elon's own words, was
Mr. Z says, look at the sweater. The subtext is still asshole. Because he says he was at Fox from 89 to 93. All right, so is it before? It was before the gaming industry. It was before the music industry stuff.
That camaraderie is dangerous.
So I don't know him. It is clear that we have very different approaches. And last time I checked, he's the richest guy on earth and I'm not. So I'm not here to criticize him or his approach. It's his journey. But I'm aware of the fact that his style, though completely different than mine, is a very successful style. And in the video game business, I would argue.
Well, hold on a second. Hold on a second. being a CEO, and I'm not saying he's saying anything wrong about, because he's not commenting on Elon Musk, but they said being kind or whatever. It's a little different when you own a company that's putting lives at danger because you're sending them up in a fucking rocket to space, or a vehicle that you're making that is driving people to make sure it runs correctly, compared to a piece of entertainment that you put into a fucking plastic box that you're playing video games. You know what I'm saying? It's a little different. I think a little bit of tension level is a little different than when you're working at the company, making sure that the thing you're working on doesn't kill humanity, compared to it's broke, buggy, and unfinished. Just saying, completely two different styles.
That we run our business differently than anyone else, and there are other successful enterprises, plenty of them. By the way, thank God there are, because if we were, one of one, I'd be nervous about our future. Even more broadly in the entertainment business, there are styles that win that are not my style. Barry Diller's style, for example, the Socratic method that he pursues, which can be brutal. It really can. I mean, I can't use it is brutal at times. That's just not my approach. I just don't do it that way. But it works for him. We're different people. And I think there are times when I have missed things because I take too soft an approach to, I think I can sometimes support people who are on the team longer than I should, more than I should. There are times when I've kicked the can down the road and shouldn't have done.
But these are all things that every day, all of us shoulda, woulda, coulda. But you learn from the shoulda, woulda, couldas, so it doesn't happen again.
On that, although that I really learned from. But I don't have the view that my approach is the only one or the best one. It just happens to be my approach. And it does, generally speaking, work. And it's worked for my life in that, not the richest guy on earth, but I'm not going to miss a meal. And I haven't built the biggest...
You're not going to miss a meal for several lifetimes. And let's be clear.
And I haven't built the biggest business, but I've built a business I'm proud of.
Build a giant business. Yeah. You don't think in those terms, though,
I
right?
reject the notion that one size fits all in almost anything in life.
Oh, so there's something I want to transition to and ask you about, because you have all this experience in media. So and obviously I'm kind of in that business, even though I don't know if I think about it. So I want some personal advice for you. But this is such an important thing about one size doesn't fit all, that Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify, and I are working on this project to try to outline all the different founder archetypes. We might even commission a book on this because it's so important. And it became a lot of conversations where he was essentially playing a role. He's like, everybody, all young entrepreneurs, he was technology entrepreneurs in their 20s, they said what's my options? I had to be like Steve Jobs and the way he communicates. And then now I have to be like Elon. And so he's like, I was literally playing a role that wasn't me.
Right. Again, as I brought up Steve Jobs was an asshole. A lot of people say he was terrible, but he was also a genius. And if it wasn't because of his style, we wouldn't have what we have today in technology.
And he says he wasted so many years of his life now realizing that there isn't one.
You shouldn't read a book and be like, well, he was an asshole, so I gotta be an asshole. You gotta lead the way you want to lead. And you learn that by the way you want to be treated.
Type. And it is dependent on who you are in your own style. You just said something that was interesting. I had somebody that works with you email me. I'm curious. People think Take-Two is in the video game business. I think you think of it, you're just in the media business.
The entertainment business, yeah.
Okay. What's the difference between media business and the entertainment business?
Well, media is just a broader rubric.
Yeah, it's just a broader. Entertainment is that you're entertaining somebody. You're trying to get them out of their mundane life and just entertain. If that's music, movies, video games, right?
That could include advertising, for example, would be media business.
Why not describe it what's the difference between entertainment and video games then?
Video games just sounds a bit narrow, and we provide an entertainment experience.
Let's be honest, Strauss. Video games sounds kiddie. Entertainment sounds more. It's like when my name is Michael. It sounds more professional than Mike. Do you know what I mean? Video games is for kids. Entertainment's for everybody.
It's expressed through video games. And maybe that's a difference. It doesn't make a difference, but I think it does.
Okay, so explain how you think about this.
You could think of a video game as like a mobile video game you spend 7 minutes on, or you could think of it as Grand Theft Auto 6 that you spend hundreds of hours on. They're very different experiences. They're both entertainment experiences. I think to call them both video game experiences maybe understates the...
Look at Mixtape, right? Mixtape's a piece of entertainment. So is Grand Theft Auto. Mixtape is not a game. It's not, right? It's barely a game.
Diversity of experience.
Do you think all the different forms of entertainment are kind of they compete with one another, but they're all kind of collapsing? Do you look at it like that or no? Like the distinction between a video game and watching something else or listening to a podcast or interacting with AI, to me, is just all entertainment and information.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I look at the media day broadly, and according to Activate, a consultancy, the media day is like 13 hours in the US. And anything that fits within the media day can compete or coexist. So yes, in that way, but no, at the end of the day, like, playing a video game is still a very different experience than watching a linear television show or movie. It just is.
This goes back to
Unless you're playing mixtape.
your insight that, I don't even think we talked about this, but when you thought about new media, you're like, the most valuable new media is not going to be passive, it's going to be interactive. I think
and that's the case with video games because it's the biggest entertainment business and it's growing more rapidly than any other.
And the size, it's bigger than all the other forms combined. Is that?
Yeah,
Okay.
at the software level, yeah.
That's an insane, and it's growing faster.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're roughly double the rate.
Is there any other thing that you would be interested in pursuing in media?
I want to see his face.
Yeah, we're roughly double the rate.
Like double the rate. He doesn't move. He's deadpan staring at him saying, yeah, double the rate.
The rate.
Is there any other thing that you would be interested in pursuing in media besides video games?
Sure, I'm open-minded. I think that in the fullness of time, one could ask, would it make sense, for example, for Take-Two to diversify into other forms of entertainment? I can assure you we would not diversify backwards into backward-looking, legacy, declining businesses. But there are other exciting entertainment businesses, and there'll be more in the future. And live entertainment's a really interesting space, for example, that's growing.
How is Take-Two using AI right now?
We have hundreds of projects going on, and we already have promulgated enterprise software. So we have.
I'm gonna let him speak about the AI. I want to interject real fast. We were playing Forza Horizon 6 last night, okay? And inside the Forza Horizon 6, they literally have AI driving, right? So you could play the game. You push, I think it was down on the D-pad. It brings up the Ava, is that what her name is, inside the game, and then you could just drive from point A to point B, right? She also shows you what's next and stuff like that, right? So AI is in the game, right? AI is in the actual game. It's driving the car for you. It's doing different things. Anna, thank you very much, El Dente, right? So AI is in the game. I don't see a lot of articles being written that AI is taking over and they used AI, right? Crimson Desert had a picture on the wall and people were fucking freaking out. This game literally lets you drive from point A to point B without ever touching the goddamn controller, right? Other games have done that in the past with Pearl Abyss, when you played, Black Desert Online and stuff like that, right? Like, AI has been in games for a long period of time, and they're going to integrate it more and more, stuff like this, right? So now let's just say the next God of War comes out, and all of a sudden, you're playing the game, but once you're done playing the dialogue, you're like, oh, from point A to point B, that's where I got to go? Automatic run. Right, the navigation goes through, right? The AI assistant for network assistant, right? That's what it is, right? So it's just going to take you from point A to point B, right? That's what AI is implemented now. Then it's going to start writing. Then it's going to start doing all the other things.
Enterprise versions of ChatGPT and Claude that are available to everyone to use, that are fully licensed and paid for. And then we have about 200 projects going on to try to create more productivity and to give people the tools they need to do their jobs, whether they're creative jobs or executive jobs, more effectively, more efficiently, with more innovation.
Let's go back to that story where you're like, well, we need a 20th Century Fox, we need a business guy. Let's grab this guy. So when you realized you needed an AI person, did you create an entire role? Like, how was it structured?
No, we have a new CTO, to Dave Klein, and it all reports to Dave because it's technology. It sits within the technology world. And no, I don't, not in any way to minimize the effect of all things AI. But first of all, the words mean different things to different people. And we're
he means business now, by the way, right? You see the him talking about his personal life and stuff. He was very relaxed, feet uncrossed. Now his business. Now his leg crossed. Now he's in business mode, trying to pitch us on AI.
Technology company that makes entertainment. We always have been. So this is not new to us. And engaging with technology aggressively to create better products, to market them better, and to run our business better is what we do. Innovation and efficiency. So it fits well within our system. And we've pushed really, really hard to be as ambitious as possible. And even so, I'd say we're getting internal criticism and that we're not moving fast enough, but we're trying to.
So what is your overall viewpoint on AI though?
Again, that's sort of like saying, how do you feel about motherhood and apple pie? I like both. All things technology that can create efficiency, I'm all in on.
But you're doubtful of the creative ability of AI?
No, I'm not doubtful of anything. I'm totally open-minded. But do I believe that remember what AI is, despite the fact that there are people in Silicon Valley who don't want you to believe this, is big data sets, lots of compute, and a large language model mushed together. That's what they are. So data sets by their very nature are backward-looking. Creativity by its very nature is forward-looking. Creativity is informed by data. you're informed by those hundreds of books that you read. And when you have a podcast, you're informed by the ones you've listened to. How could you not be? But if yours was just a really high quality clone of Patrick's, who would watch yours? And the thesis that, wow, with AI, we can more efficiently create a completely derivative property, like derivative properties don't work. So that's where the thread has been lost, that AI so far is really great at asset creation, but hit creation is an asset creation. Asset creation is a necessary but insufficient condition for hit creation. So I would love to say that AI will make it easier, quicker, and better to make hits, because who would benefit more than we? We're in the business already. We own IP, right? That you know. So you don't have to create new IP, which is really, really hard to do with or without AI. Like create this table goes to Hollywood, getting someone to buy that video game. That's incredibly hard. Getting them to buy GTA 6, not so hard by comparison. So it's not that I take at all lightly the potential benefits of new technology. To the contrary.
No, I think your entire career has been an example.
It's the story of my career. It's just that when our stock goes down by 50 points because people are like, anyone can make a video game. That was the thesis. With AI, anyone can make a video game. It's like, anyone can make a video game last week. Like anyone can make a video game 5 years ago.
Right.
The technology is readily available. It's commoditized. You know how many mobile games get put out a year? Thousands. You know how many hits are made in a year? 0 to 5. You know who makes them? Thank you very much. We do.
Hold on a second. Let me see this again.
That was the thesis. With AI, anyone can make a video game. It's like, anyone can make a video game last week. Like anyone can make a video game 5 years ago. The technology is readily available. It's commoditized. You know how many mobile games get put out a year? Thousands. You know how many hits are made in a year? 0 to 5. You know who makes them? Thank you very much. We do.
0 of 5. Thank you. We do.
This is just true. And that's just true. It's like, you don't need this new technology to create assets that are competitive. That already exists. It will be quicker to do it, but speed isn't the issue. If I told you, David, with this technology, you can create something that looks exactly like GTA, and it's going to take 3 years, not 30 seconds. You'd be like, I'll spend 3 years on it. It's worth it. And that exists. You can, in 3 years, technology exists prior to AI to clone GTA, but it won't be GTA. It'll be a clone of GTA. Clones don't sell. All hits are by their very nature unexpected. That's the most important thing to take away. Things that are data-driven in their entirety can't be unexpected. But that doesn't mean AI isn't super helpful.
Perfect place to end. Strauss, thanks for the time. This was awesome.
Thanks for having me.
That was awesome. That was a great interview. I like that interview a lot. Right? I love interviewing people. And if I can't interview people, I love watching other people interview people and break down what they talk about and stuff like that. That was good. Go over to David's channel. He's got 78,500 subscribers. Our little chat here, we have 30 people here. Go over there, give it a like. Here, I'll show you. Give it a like. Right? I've never had. I'm gonna subscribe to his channel because I've never watched his other stuff before. I've seen it in passing, but I've never subscribed. Go give it a click. Right? We always give credit where credit's due. We always give people's news articles down below. We give everything down below. I'm going to take all the other articles away from because we didn't talk about anything else here. So I got to change what we were going to talk about. So I'll have to redo that. But we were going to watch the Billiard News topic as well, but we can watch that tomorrow. I love it so much when you can get, if you guys learned anything, right? If it's just a small little piece of business, maybe you're in the business of starting your own business. Maybe you're an entrepreneur. Maybe you just want to know more about the gaming business. Maybe you still, like, if you got a little bit out of Strauss Zelnick's interview and liked what David's interview was with Strauss Zelnick, go give it a like, and give it appreciation to it. So I learned a lot there. That's cool about Borderlands. $50 million. Like, what was the budget? Do we know the budget of Borderlands? Borderlands 1 total budget. Okay, a total development budget for the original Borderlands video game is officially undisclosed, but Gearbox previously noted that the sequel, Borderlands 2, cost roughly $30 million to $35 million to make, several times the budget of the original game. And that this was several times the budget of the original video game. Well, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. Now, it does say here in a note, however, Take-Two's Strauss Zelnick mentioned it cost last-minute visual style changes for the first game, added approximately $50 million to its associated investment prior to launch. Well, if this was several times, 30 to 35 million, several times more than Borderlands 1, right? Which is now shown that it wasn't, because we know it just cost $50 million to redo the entire game. So that means we're talking $70 to $100 million for the budget. Borderlands carries $110 to $120 million budget. Is that the movie? That's the film budget. That's crazy. I wonder how it looked like before Borderlands, is the art style. That's the main thing about it, right? Well, look at Borderlands 2 made a shit ton of money. And it was smart. It was smart because of the art style, and it built up like a cult classic afterwards, right, for Borderlands 1. And then they made Borderlands 2, and it was super, super successful. Borderlands 3, not so much. But the brand itself kind of came full circle, right? The film of Borderlands bombed completely. They got their ass handed to them with the budget on that. Just Enough says, I got a long video for you to watch about game balance not being real. All right, we'll post in Discord. Sarge says, so let's not forget, when we thought the gaming wasn't worth investing, no one cared. But then, once they saw they could also make multi-millions of dollars, then they all had to stick their noses in it. Well, yeah, but in the very beginning, when he talked about Borderlands, he's like, yeah, I had to trust the guys to change the art style, right? They wanted to change it. That's crazy, though. There's articles now. Strauss Zelnick is changing the visual style of Borderlands, cost $50 million. That's crazy that he said that out loud. Like, yeah, that's crazy. We were all like, wait, like, what year is that? He said early on in his career at Take-Two, and we're like thinking about it, and we're like, wait a minute, 2009, we looked it up, and they're like, is it Borderlands? And then he comes out like 30 seconds later and says it's Borderlands, which is crazy. Borderlands 5-minute E3 gameplay. Do they have the original style of what Borderlands looked like? Didn't they change for the last one? They trying to change the art style a little bit. How it looked, yes. Do you have you said it's on YouTube? What's the video called, Titan? Borderlands 5-minute E3 gameplay. Borderlands E3 gameplay. That's Borderlands 3. Is this it?
Not without.
And Borderlands is pretty neat. It takes place on the planet Pandora. And we're going to go ahead and get in the vehicle, guys. Mark here on the right is on my right, he's a soldier class character named Roland. And Mordecai is a hunter class character. And these guys, they need the vehicle because Pandora is a big place. Vast expanse out here in the Borderlands. They're going to play cooperatively. They might have to communicate a little bit. This is all real. It's a great road. It's a tough one. He's online. You can play with 4 players. Go back over and show you. Every single one of these guns is different.
Two months
they're
before
procedurally
launch.
generated. No development team on the planet can create 500,000 weapons within the time and budgets that we're dealing with here. We have created software that actually creates these things for us using rules. Every manufacturer of these weapons, like over here, but this is just one of many.
I want to see like an actual
shotgun,
character
a
up
little bit
close.
different, both in the equipment that we're discovering and the enemies that we encounter. You know, some of these enemies.
I mean, I have to say,
he's just a torso now.
good choice,
Some of these enemies.
right? Good choice that they actually changed it.
Rolling. Mordecai is such a badass, even though he wears a skirt.
It's a kilt.
All right, a kilt. Freedom.
Did you think?
This is the first look at Borderlands. Thank you very much.
It's good. It's good that they changed it. It's good that they took $50 million and a year later to put it out. That's crazy. It did kind of look like Fallout. Right? Imagine you're like, man, that game looks amazing. And then all of a sudden you get it like, that's not anything like, it's not anything that it looked like. Bad news is we got the movie. That is true. Good stuff. All right, chat. If you guys like the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You never know what you're going to get on this show, right? The Daily Grind, right? We covered a podcast today. Great interview. Great interview. If you want to go watch that in yourself, the link's in the description down below. Go check out Dave's rest of his stuff on his channel. Like I said, give it a like. Give it a sub. We'll be back tonight with Shooting the Shit with Sarge. I'm probably going to go on Fake Wizard News for maybe an hour or so. And then we will play games with Sarge, so it'll just start a little later. Probably like 9 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock instead of 8 o'clock. Again, I don't really know if I'm going on. I got to see what the topics are. But for the most part, I'll most likely be on the show tonight. And I'll put a post in Discord as well. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button down below. If you guys like what I do here, check out some of our other videos, other morning shows, other content. We'll be over on 30 and Still Gaming tonight to play some State of the K2 with Sarge after we're done with the podcast. Appreciate it very much. You guys have a great rest of your day, evening, or night. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.
Booting up the day with a cup of tea. RGB lights smiling back at me. Got the tower humming, looking proper nice. Console lads crying, blimey, what's the price? Click of the mouse and we're off to the races. Screen so sharp you can see the faces. Oh, love, and the frame rate hits the stride. Feels like the whole UK's on my side. Oh, no frame cap's gonna hold us down. We're running this town. Sweet Lord, the power, the grace, that glorious PC crown. We're the PC master race. Gloriously smooth in a digital space. Boot it up, love, let the colors embrace. High-res dreams with impeccable taste. Raise your T, raise the bass. Cheers to the glorious PC master race. Plug in the headset, mates online, laughing at console dropping to 39. Mods on deck, got a world to bend, and the patches don't take till the weekend's in. Flip that switch, feel the British breeze. Mechanical keys, tapping melodies. Ultra settings look divine. It's tea time and game time. Oh, no wall garden's gonna clip our wings. We change everything.